Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
All right, happy Monday to you, and good morning. A lot to cover today, and I want to start with what happened in Detroit on Friday afternoon, just shortly after this show ended with Frank. Obviously, it was a tough situation. A young man was killed after firing. Now we understand 5 shots at police, and I want to start really here because I don't know what we all did to deserve James Craig. I'm not really sure. But our police chief in the city of Detroit, what he did this weekend, give that man a raise. I mean, honestly, the way that he handled that, the poise, the quick turnaround of not only body cam footage from the police on the scene, but dash cam footage. I mean, the undertaking to get all of that together in a matter of 6, 7, 8 hours to sift through the evidence that was available to them. It was amazing, and they turned a situation that got a little rowdy and a little out of control at the scene of the shooting. They took it from being a dangerous situation because police were still getting bricks and rocks and bottles thrown at them. But he took it from being a dangerous situation to being a potentially deadly situation. So I don't know what we did to deserve James Craig, but I'm happy he's here in the city of Detroit, and I'm happy he's with us this morning here on the Frank Beckmann Show. Chief, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing this morning? Thank you for your kind words of support. I got to tell you, I give a lot of credit to the men and women who are out there every night for the past 6 weeks. I credit my homicide section for really working hard to pull this together so we could get out the truth. It's unfortunate today what's going on, not just here in Detroit, but across this country. This snap judgment, no longer can I stand before a camera within 45 minutes of a shooting, put out preliminary information only to have it undermined by the reckless behavior of few.
Well, and unfortunately, the reckless behavior of few can turn into over 300 people protesting at a murder scene, or at a scene where somebody dies. And not only are you're working to secure the scene because you have to investigate. I mean, the early reports that there were 4 shots fired by Hakeem Littleton, but you come to find out that there were 5. Your officers fired 4 shots, all connecting with Littleton, but not before he pulled the gun out of his pants, started shooting, goes to the ground after he was hit, continues to shoot. I mean, Chief, I don't know how you did it because, look, I've been reporting in this town for a while, and certainly our reporters in this town know that when you deal with police investigations, police shootings, sometimes that investigation internally from your department can take a long time. That can take months, even weeks to sift through the proper information to find out what actually happened. But you felt, obviously, that you had a proper read on what happened based on what your police at the scene were telling you and what the information that you received from both the body cams and the dash cam footage. So I really give you a ton of credit because you turned a situation that could have been really, really bad. And look, I know still a couple officers were injured when the protests were happening at the scene. But you turned a situation that could have been really ugly. You turned it into a situation where it was at least manageable for you. And I give you a lot of credit.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, thank you for your support. And I got to just give a lot of support to Detroiters, folks who live in the city, who live in the metro area, who have touched me over the last several days, applauding what took place and that we were able to get the information out very quickly, refuting the lies. And unfortunately, and I know you've been reporting this town for a while, but as I said to the host in the last show, what responsibility does the media have in doing their very best to make sure they're reporting accurately, especially in these volatile times? And so they share some of that responsibility.
Sure, and I agree with that, Chief. And I think, unfortunately, the way that social media has permeated our daily lives, sometimes it's just it's impossible to keep a blatant falsehood, a blatant false statement. Saying that this young man was sitting on a porch unarmed, not bothering anybody, and he just came up and got shot up by police. That is just flat out wrong, and it can create a lot of dangerous situations. Now, I want to read you a quote. I'm sure you've seen it, but I want to give this to you because I want your reaction on this before I let you go. Tristan Taylor, the head of the Detroit Will Breathe organization that groups these protesters together to get out to the streets. He said, "We know for a fact that if we had not been out here, that video would not have been released the same day." Chief, I want to ask you flat out, knowing the situation that we're in today, knowing the volatility of these protests that happen, not just in Detroit, but across the country, would you have released that video?
Let me just say this. Tristan is trying to make it seem as if he's the one that's created and promoted transparency. This department, over the last 7 years, has always initiated transparency. I understand the importance of promoting trust-based relationships. I was criticized very early on because I was always had a willingness to get in front of a camera, to state the facts. And this is something I really embraced and learned when I was a chief in Cincinnati. Within 24 hours of any officer-involved shoot, the mayor, city manager, and the chief of police stood together to report to the community what took place as we knew it at that time. So for him to sit there and prop himself up is comical. I mean, where's the responsibility of the attacks?
Sure.
And then, as he always does, he puts out false information.
Mm-hmm.
He takes this position of, well, I don't know anything about attacks on police officers. In fact, everyone was peaceful. This is the narrative he pushes, and I just find it so interesting that I'm taking 2 or 3 minutes to respond to the comedy.
Yeah.
When we should be focusing on our heroes.
Well, and keeping those heroes safe and keeping yourself safe and the rest of your department. Chief, that's a good place to leave it. I appreciate it. Well done. You deserve a Detroiter of the Year for your work this weekend. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right, there it is. Chief James Craig here on the Frank Beckmann Show. Chris Renwick filling in for Frank, who's on vacation this week. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. That's the number for you to call and text. Hey, and if you want to watch the show today, you can watch it on StreamYard on our Facebook, and you can head on over to our YouTube channel as well. In the meantime, let's head on out to the roadways, check things out there with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by Everstream, the business-only fiber network.
At Everstream, the business-only fiber network, we believe business deserves better.
Back.
Business connectivity.
Hello, Michael.
Hey, why you asked that question about?
Hey, can you take the station feed away real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Chris, looking at a new accident was reported in Farmington Hills along the Lodge southbound at Middle Belt. Lapeer southbound at 75, earlier accident, multiple crashes in that area, seeing delays from at least Harmon Road. Pair of accidents remaining along US 23 northbound, first spot at 96, wreck blocks the right lane, slow from Lee Road. US 23 northbound at White Lake Road, wreck blocks the right lane, seeing delays from at least Center Road. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Guernsey Farms Dairy. Celebrate 80 years with Guernsey this summer at your local grocer. From their award-winning milk, ice cream, and lemonade, they are a true Michigan summer tradition. Guernsey is excited to announce their newly remodeled restaurant in Northville. Now open Wednesday through Sunday. For more info, visit GuernseyFarmsDairy.com. That's GuernseyFarmsDairy.com.
No complaints here. Pretty good forecast as we kick off the new week. A few clouds around early, some clouds at sunshine later, 81. Tonight, clear it after some clouds early, a comfortable 63. Some areas pop into the 50s. Sunshine with some afternoon clouds tomorrow and a high near 84. Wednesday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, staying in the middle 80s. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ray staging on News Talk 760 WJR.
Tune into the Rich Paul Show Saturdays at 9 a.m., Mondays at 7 p.m. as we talk investing, finance, and retirement. This week, we discuss baby boomers' unique challenges and 401k frequently asked questions and much more. Saturdays at 9 a.m., Mondays at 7 p.m. on the Rich Paul Show.
President Trump needs a strong conservative ally in Congress. Meet Republican businesswoman Lisa McClain.
I'm Lisa McClain. I'm a conservative outsider, proven job creator, and pro-Trump Republican. I grew up in a Michigan farming town, worked my way through school, and spent my career building one of the fastest.
You're getting Dana too, and she's up audition.
Like President Trump, Lisa McClain is a business leader, a political outsider, and rock-solid conservative Republican.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, I'm back. Were you getting yourself looping back to yourself?
Was I what?
Were you getting yourself looping back to yourself?
I wasn't. No.
Oh,
No,
okay,
that was
that's
good.
Good. No, I was saying I'm glad you asked that question about the activist who was claiming victory. I think because I thought that was an interesting point too, and I wonder what the chief was saying about it.
Yeah. Hi, Barb Thorman. Hello. Oh, love when you filmed for Frank. Thank you. That's so nice. Just trying to navigate the icebergs. The chief is the best thing that's happened for the city of Detroit. But there's not much disagreements for me. To me, and Mike, I'm sure you agree to some extent. I mean, look, the way that he handled that, I really mean that. I thought he was the way that de-escalated everything, and I thought he did a terrific job.
Yeah, and we were talking about it earlier. I mean, I can't get into the Chiefs' head, but to me, it seemed like it was a race against time. You know, we had a tinderbox, and it could get really, really bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a good point.
You want one of these cuts coming in, by the way?
You can. No, that's all right. We'll hold them for later.
But yeah. Back in 15. But yeah, that was very suspenseful half hour between when he announced he was going to show the video and when he actually did.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're coming back. So
all right, sounds good.
411.com. That's blitz411.com.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
And, I think just coming off that interview with the chief, to me, I think everybody just needs to, and look, everybody just needs to take a step back. Just take a step back. Breathe a little bit. Relax. I mean, look, anytime a 20-year-old is shot, it's tragedy. It's terrible. Nobody wants it to escalate to that point. But for me, at least, the thing that we have to remember in this country, there is a due process. There is an order of events that needs to happen, especially if you're investigating, let's say, a murder, let's say a police shooting, any sort of crime. There needs to be some sort of investigation that needs to take place in order for you to come out and say definitively, yes, our police officers acted irresponsibly. They did not follow protocol, or in this case, they followed everything almost to a T. I mean, look, I don't know how else that situation could have turned out. Look, and this Tristan Taylor with Detroit will breathe, he's saying, well, look, the police, they all came out in riot gear instead. They all came, as soon as we started congregating, they came out in riot gear and started tear gassing us. Well, okay, but hold on a second, because there were information that was out there that was wrong, that because protesters didn't wait to see what the facts were. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, he says, well, they didn't send anybody out to talk with us. There was nobody that was coming out to talk with us. Again, with all due respect, there wasn't much to say. They were out investigating. They had a crime scene to cordon off, make sure they have all the right information, and away you go. That's how this should work. So when Chief comes out and in a matter of hours, puts out a video that corroborates the story of his officers that were on the scene, that is a really big deal in a time when I don't know that anybody really wants to see or hear it. So I give Chief a lot of credit. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. You can call or text. And like I said, we're streaming the show live today. So you can head on over to our Facebook page or on YouTube and watch it there and comment there. I want to go to the phones. Greg in Shelby Township. Good morning, Gregory.
Good morning, Christopher, Mr. Positive. Yes.
Hey.
Kudos to James Craig. Fantastic job. But I've got to ask you this question. Is this situation that happened Friday and the response through social media indicative of race relations? Here are the facts. The facts they promulgated on social media as misguided and misinformed. And people have this mindset that says, the facts don't matter. This is what happened. And people are entrenched with their mindset. So the African-American community says that the police are always going to do wrong. The whites will say either they did wrong or they didn't, but no one will accept the facts. And the social media is pushing the narrative that people are so entrenched that they don't want to change their ways. And because of that, do you think we can honestly have an honest discussion? And do you think change will come because of the bias?
Look, I don't know. I don't know about that. But I will say that the way that social media is, the way that social media is used. Look, I use social media every day. Okay, and most people do to some extent. But the way that those kind of things can get out on social media and just kind of run amok, those rumors or falsehoods, but then they become reality to a certain extent. So when somebody floats it out there that Hakeem Littleton was in reality just sitting on his porch minding his own business and wasn't armed, and instead police just came up and shot him up, that would be a terrible crime. That would be unbelievably irresponsible by police. But that's not what happened. And when those things float out, when those things get to a point where they're out in the ether and they're out amongst the public, that's where the danger is. And I do believe the media does shoulder some responsibility on that. But when it gets out on social media, when it's on Twitter, there's nothing we can do about it. It's out of our hands at that point. Greg, I appreciate the call. But that's when I say we got to just take a step back and just let the process play out. And look, and I'll say this also, Chief Craig, time and time again, has shown us that in the Detroit Police Department, again, there will be transparency. There will be a certain level of accountability, good or bad. And we've seen it both in the Detroit Police Department. And he'll tell you that too. And when somebody does something wrong, what happens? They're out. They're disciplined, depending on the level of infraction. So for me, it's very obvious. Chief Craig this week has cemented himself as Michigander of the Year by the way he handled that situation.
And Chris, I would also guess that if it did turn out that the police weren't acting in self-defense and the misinformation was true, I think he would be just as quick to get out there, condemn the officers, and arrest them.
Absolutely, Mike. Mike, I agree completely. And that goes to what I'm talking about Chief Craig will take the good with the bad. And he's has a track record of it. He's done it already.
He was one of the first people to come out and say that the officers who killed George Floyd should be arrested. So I feel like he is just He's interested in the facts, and he'll stand by his officers if they acted correctly, and he'll be the first one to weed out the bad ones.
800-859-0957. Call or text there. This from an unnamed texter. The media needs to stop giving this Tristan protester the time of day. He'll go away. We love James Craig in the suburbs. Unfortunately, Tristan Taylor's part of the story here. I mean, when you're gonna whip up a bunch of people and take them to a crime scene, unfortunately, you're a part of the story. And when he talks about if they weren't out there, Chief Craig wouldn't have released that. I patently disagree with that. Jeff and Troy says those who were there and saw the perp pull a gun and fire at the officers, then lied about what they saw to incite a riot, must be held accountable. Jeff from Troy. Well, I will say they were arresting two people along with Akeem Littleton, and the other person that they were arresting, I mean, in terms of compliance, in terms of, I guess, doing what you would need to do in that situation, I thought he did a fine job. I guess I don't know exactly the role of the people on the scene, and maybe that'll come out in the investigation. So we'll take a look at that. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Let's head on out to the roadways, check things out there with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
The Lodge southbound at Middle Belt accident is now in the clearing stages. An incident in Auburn Hills, Lapeer southbound at 75. Accident reports, police, I should say, report that earlier accident is now clear. So just left with a pair of crashes along US 23 northbound at 96. Wreck blocks the right lane, slow from Lee Road. US 23 northbound at White Lake Road. Accident still working to clear that right lane, slow from Center Road. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by the law firm of Victoria, Divorce and Family Law for women only. Family members and friends pass this information on to your loved ones. Asset protection, best interest of the children, security, protection, a brighter tomorrow. The conversation starts with the law firm of Victoria. Call us at 248-723-1600, victorialawfirm.com. Pleasant day today, coolest day of the week. We are expecting it to hit a nice, comfortable 81 today. Lots of sunshine this afternoon. Clouds, then clear, low 62. Tuesday, afternoon clouds, but mainly sunny, a high of 85. Then by hump day, some sun, some clouds, a stray shower, a thunderstorm possible in the afternoon, a high of 89. Currently 68 degrees. I'm Dana Clark, WJR News with Dick Hafner in about 2 minutes.
For over 100 years, Absolpure has remained committed to serving missions.
All right.
Yeah. Barb, again, sadly, due process isn't woke enough.
Yeah, let's rifle through some of these Facebook comments here. What I'll probably do is, as they come in, I'll put them up on the screen.
Then that's cool.
Breaks weekend. All right. So real quick, I'm going to stroke your ego for about 10 seconds. That's it. I'm just going to rifle through these papers. All right. Each one gets 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
All right. Good.
And yeah.
All right. Good.
There you go. And there's Barb chiming in with the due process.
Yeah. I mean, my question, Barb, Mike, I mean, anybody wants to chime in on this on here. Where does this kind of go from here? I mean, that's the thing that I struggle most with is if we can't have due process, if we don't have that, certain level of I don't know. I mean, that certain level of finding out what happened and get to the bottom of it. If we don't have that, what do we do?
Well, and that's I mean, in his press conference on Friday night, Chief James Craig said it over and over that it was very early on in the investigation. He was kind of taking a risk putting it out there, but
absolutely.
I mean, I guess if anything, due process has to be sped up, or else you'll have terrible consequences.
Well, and look, I understand. Look. What happened to George Floyd is an absolute travesty. That officer needs to be held accountable, and actually all four probably should, and they probably will. But we have to remember that the actions of a few aren't the actions of many. And so for me, and look, we've heard all the time, not all cops are bad cops, blah, blah, blah. And that's true. But we should always have a level of due process. There should always be that built into our system to where, and I guess the other side of it is we have to know that what's happening is happening on the up and up, right? Because a lot of people will say, look, there's been times when we don't always trust the system. Okay, fair enough. But I think James Craig at least has shown time and time again that he is on the up and up. There's no hiding here. He gets things done right.
Well, and I also think that I've always been a case by case basis type of guy on these
absolutely
claims of police brutality.
Yeah,
I do think the impression I got on Friday is once the video went around, the people who were protesting the actual killing that happened on Friday, I think that they saw that it wasn't self-defense, and I think it did quell a lot of tension. The protesters who stuck around, I think they're the protesters that have been protesting since George Floyd, and they made a pact to be out there protesting every day until their goals were met. What those are,
absolutely.
So those same protesters, they're the ones out there today protesting DPS.
Yeah,
and so your core protesters are still going to be out there. But I feel like the chief coming out and showing the video, showing 3 different videos, I think it was effective in quelling the tensions.
I think you're right completely. I mean, again, I think he probably had to do it. I mean, because if something like that happens here, where I mean, it's just gross negligence by the police, and somebody loses their life because of that. I mean, it would be really bad. And
right.
So I think it would be really bad on a number of fronts, but specifically, I mean, I think what he did was huge. I think that, I mean, look, I understand they're throwing rocks, they're throwing bottles, they're throwing bricks and stones, and I get it, but boy, it could have been a lot different. So
yeah, and I mean, credit, except for a couple of the bad actors, the protests were contentious, they were heated, but they didn't get out of control. I guess I would, maybe you'd give them a B- on peacefulness. There were a couple of officers that had objects thrown at them, but I think for the most part, when they heard that the chief was going to be speaking at 7:30, I think they took a wait and see approach.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's good to have everybody on here on Facebook and on YouTube. We appreciate it.
Folks, I gotta get this phone call.
If you guys want to just hop in and type some stuff up, and we'll try to get to as many as we can when we're in the breaks on the show on the air, and then obviously we'll get back into it when the show comes back up. But 800-859-0957 is the number for you guys to call or text, and we'll get to as many of those as we can too. So I got some grief, by the way, because of my stuff in the background here. And from some of my Spartan friends, they weren't too happy that I was displaying some of my memorabilia, and I've got a lot of stuff. I just don't have it all up. So it's just some of the stuff that I've worked on putting up. So you have something better to look at than a cream wall. So in any event, watch the stuff that we can do here, comment, and we'll read as much as we can. Mike's back at the studio with Jason Pfister, so we appreciate that, guys. And we'll keep this thing on the tracks as much as possible.
Yeah, and I was saying before the show, it's like a little mini Adam Schefter setup you got there.
It is kind of Schefter-ish. Yes. No, you're right.
You just need to write a bunch of books and put them on a bookshelf behind you.
Yeah, and like I said, those aren't books that I've written. They're books that I haven't read. So
the entire Bernstein Bears collection just on a bookshelf behind you.
I've read more of Jake's books than I've read my books.
Those count. Okay, Jason, our engineer, says we are back in third. Everyone say hi to Jay. I don't know if he can see it. Can they see on camera, Jason?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. I was going to. Okay, I got to go away and give you the station again.
Okay, sounds good.
Oxford Recovery Center treats autism, traumatic brain injury, Lyme disease, and many other conditions. Learn more at Oxford.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. That's the number for you to call or text. Found this text interesting, Mike. Is Chief Craig running for governor in 2022? Lord knows we could use his type of transparency in Lansing.
That'd be great, but I think we still need him as chief here in Detroit.
I think so. Chris, social media is nothing but a sewer. How many people still believe to this day that hands up, don't shoot actually happened? That's in reference to Ferguson.
Hey, speaking of social media, you can watch this show being video streamed on our Facebook page.
Yeah, and on YouTube. So if you go to that feed, you'll see behind me that I've got some football memorabilia and stuff like that. And deep in the back there, I got a Ted Lindsay stuff, all kinds of stuff back there. But you commented that it's kind of like Adam Schefter, ESPN, who covers the NFL. You said it's got a Schefter vibe, which I appreciate.
Right. And you just got to write a bunch of books and put them on a bookshelf behind.
Yeah, and none of it, I haven't even read those books. But speaking of the NFL, we do have some NFL news. And it's not Lions related. But after mounting pressure to change the name, the Washington Redskins say that they will retire the Redskins nickname and come up with a new one. So that now official. A lot of people will say that's been a long time coming, and obviously with our climate today, it was that pressure just kind of kept. It's like shaking a pop bottle. I mean, eventually that pressure is just going to build up, and finally, you're talking sponsors, people close to the team are saying, "Look, it's got to go." So that's the big NFL news today that the Redskins name is going away. They're going to come up with a new one.
And it
Do you
sounds
have any takers?
It sounds like the Red Tails are the leader in the clubhouse right now. At least that's what I've been seeing buzz around. I have no idea what the Washington Redskins, or formerly the football team formerly known as the Redskins.
Yes,
Rivera and FedEx. I don't know what names they're kicking around, but that seems to have the most support right now.
Now I thought I saw, the what did you say it was? Now I'm already blanking on it.
The Red Tail.
The Red Tails. And that, I believe, is a nod to the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yes, exactly.
So that's cool. I also saw the Red Wolves, Red Foxes, something like that. And they had a pretty cool logo.
They're really committed to the red. I guess because team colors and everything.
They got that kind of maroon thing going on. So I'm sure want to keep that. But either way, that's the big news out of D.C. Redskins are retiring the name, and they're going to pick something else. So that's interesting. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Look, we're just talking about what happened this weekend, or really early afternoon Friday with Hakeem Littleton, the 20-year-old being shot by Detroit police officers after he shot at police 5 times. And the protesters gathered at the site. And look, to me, it's very obvious. I thought the way Chief Craig handled this, I thought the way that Detroit police handled this was so above great. I mean, so above the way it should be done. And I think in this situation, they probably had the time, based on the information that they received both from the officers and their body cameras and their dash cams in the cars, that they had the idea, the right idea, the rough idea of what happened. And so they felt comfortable releasing that information. And for me, that when you have that information ready at your fingertips, to me, that it just makes sense to do it and try to bring the level of look, it's boiling, and the people that were coming to protest, it was boiling, and it look, they were still throwing rocks and still throwing bottles and bricks and all that stuff. So it went from being bad, but it could have been a lot worse. And so that's where I give DPD a lot of credit and Chief James Craig. All right, let's head back to the phones. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Let's go to Bill in Dearborn. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Good. first of all, my wife and I sat glued to the TV set the other night when this went off. We only to listen to the cops shot the guy 8 times, twice in the back of the head, and it's such a big such a big lie. And then on top of that, after they released the video 3 or 4 times, and some woman in the audience, I don't know who she was, are you planning on releasing these to the public? And the chief looked at her like, are you nuts? We just released it to the public. And then later, the next day on Channel 4, some young reporter says, Chief, do you think there's any other way we could have handled it? And I wanted to say, yeah, maybe we could have gang tickled the guy to the ground. The chief looked at this guy and he goes, I can't believe you're asking me this question.
Well, look, and that has been something that's been kind of banging around in my head, trying to think of what could they have done? I mean, to me, what could they actually have done in that situation? Could they have pulled out a taser? I mean, look, I've never been tased, but from what I understand, it doesn't completely immobilize you. And if you're tased and you still have a firearm, I suppose you could still fire. I just don't know what to do in that situation. And
that man was going to execute that officer.
Right. I mean, look, and he shot 5 times. He shot 5 times. Thankfully, it wasn't a good enough shot. He could have really seriously hurt a lot of people.
Yeah. Maybe we could have done a karate move or something. That would have been great.
Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you. I scratch my head as well. Because I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the answers. But when I look at a situation and I have to, again, I look at it objectively. I think what happened here, unfortunately, I don't know what else could have been done. When you're firing 5 shots, I don't know what else. I don't know. I don't have any other answers. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. You can watch us on Facebook, watch us on YouTube. Chris Renwick in for Frank, trying to avoid the icebergs. And we're going to Dana Clark to check the traffic situation. Dana, good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Looks like we are just dealing with one accident now. Earlier crash, US 23 northbound at 96 at 1 is finally clear. Seeing delays from at least Lee Road. US 23 northbound at White Lake Road. This accident still there, blocking the right lane, slow from a Center Road. Earlier crash along the pier southbound at 75. That incident is now clear. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Operating Engineers 324. Operating Engineers 324 run the heavy equipment that's building Michigan's roads. Remember to slow down, pay attention in work zones for the worker safety and yours. OE 324, we build, we operate, we maintain. Visit OE324.org.
Not a terrible weekend now as we crank it out through the beginning of the week. More sunshine around, a few clouds. We'll go through the day partly cloudy, 81. Tonight, there might be a little overcast early, otherwise clearing out later, 63. Could be some 50s in the suburbs. Sunshine tomorrow with a few clouds, 84. Wednesday, cloud, sun, 85. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ray Stidgick on News Talk 760 WJR.
Paul Show, Saturday, 9 a.m.
Yes.
At 7 p.m.
I feel that I should be more dramatic on camera. And maybe the people would like it, but like when I'm done with the story, I just like throw the papers. You know what I mean?
Good.
Something like that.
Right. Or you can do what is Rush?
Yeah.
Rush does that.
Yes. I like that. I think it adds a nice aesthetic. My worry is if I do the paper toss, then I'm going to need to reference it again at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have a bunch of papers on my floor.
Well, that's good. That would take people on like a behind the scene how soft.
Yeah. Like, okay, hold on. Let me get this done here.
40% of the show is Chris picking up papers off the floor. I feel like I should be. I feel like I should be sitting up straight.
Walsh and Kettering University.
It's true. Yeah, your posture has to change.
Yeah, I got to do some sit-ups.
Mark Gardner, Chris, great fill-in for Frank. Always like listening to your perspective. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Mark. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate it. Anyway. What do you think about this Redskins thing, Mike? I mean, somebody on here on the texting line said they could keep the name and change the photo to a Redskin potato.
Right. You know what? I said the Red Tails are the leader in the clubhouse. That's the second most popular theory.
I hadn't seen that.
I mean, here's the thing. It seems like every 2 or 3 years we've had this debate since since I've been aware of football.
You're not wrong about that.
I mean, look, when your biggest sponsor, when your sponsor that has their name on the stadium.
Yeah, when they go, you got to change the name.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what it was. I mean, yeah, there has been kind of a shift in the public consciousness.
Yeah.
But
no, I think you're completely right. And when your sponsors start, if the sponsors are going, look, you got to do something here. I want to show you something too, Mike. Since we're on Facebook and YouTube, I want to try to entertain the people during the breaks. I know we only have a couple minutes. Jake turned 2 the other day, a couple weeks ago now. Yeah. But we had a party for him, and we had his favorite show was Paw Patrol, right?
Yeah.
So we had a Paw Patrol themed party. So in my office here, thankfully you can't see it. I've done a nice job of moving everything, but we still have some stuff lying around Paw Patrol.
Oh boy!
So this here is from, we had a like one of those picture walls where it had like a photo booth, right?
Oh, how fun!
So we had these. Funny, right?
You should do the show with that on.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Right,
I think that might be a bad look.
All right, we're back in 30 here, so
right.
You're gonna have to entertain the folks, and I gotta grab some of these phone calls.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Do the whole show.
That's my dare. On Friday, do the entire open line segment with that thing.
I've got different characters too. It'll work.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
And we still have a lot to get to today. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. I want you to be listening at 10:05 because I ran across an interesting story about COVID-19 and people who have passed due to the virus, the disease. And the story I saw was talking about blood clots that were found in patients who have passed. Upon autopsy, they find that almost every organ has some sort of clotting in it. And it just jarred me. I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't heard that before. So it just got me wondering. I mean, look, people who have recovered, obviously a lot of people have recovered, a lot of people lost their lives, but it just got me wondering, like, what the heck? I mean, what is this thing? I mean, I still don't think anybody has any information on it. I don't think anybody has a good read on it. It's a nasty bug. And so anyway, we'll get to that coming up at 10:05. So keep listening. In the meantime, we're just kind of talking about this situation that happened on Friday in Detroit. Hakeem Littleton was shot by police after firing at the officers. Friday afternoon, shot 5 times, 5 rounds. They recovered all 5 bullet casings from his weapon. And to me, the defusal process was excellent by Chief James Craig. And that's where I think that's where the focus should be. This thing was from, really as soon as the information got to the head of the police department, that information was being processed. It was being chopped up. It was being ready to go once they realized that they had the proper information, and he got it out to the people. And we all unfortunately saw the video. And I wouldn't recommend it for you, but we'll watch it for you to make sure that we're giving you the information. But look, it wasn't a great scene. And so to show what actually happened instead of the conjecture, instead of the rumor mill on social media, to me, that's where I look at it and go, I applaud Chief James Craig a lot, because that stuff can take a long time. So for him to get it out as quick as he did to squash those rumors and show people what happened, excellent. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. To the text, DPD handled the situation so well, it should be shown in every police officer training class. Job well done, officers. I think that's exactly right. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Let's go to Mike in Clinton Township. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Chris.
What can I do for you?
There are free press and news reporters that are embedded with the people, muckrackers and who have you in the media that went out and reported that police shoot black guy. 4 hours. If they would have waited 4 hours, they wouldn't have had people, upset, rioting and, throwing bricks at police officers.
Sure.
And one of the reporters happens to, frequent he was on one of the bylines of the original story. The Free Press young lady reporter is right with, on social media, on Twitter. She reported this like right after it happened. I mean, almost instantly, the report came up that guy was shot.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have waited 4 hours. They wouldn't have had any problems. Their report would have been more accurate. And they need to be held to account. They need to stop this. They need to stop embedding themselves with the people. I don't know if it's BLM or whatever it is, but they're all together with these reporters reporting this stuff on Twitter of the gatherings of at Belle Isle and Jefferson, and Grand Boulevard and Jefferson at Belle Isle, and they're reporting this stuff before it actually goes in the paper with the Free Press byline on Twitter. And I think Brian Dickerson owes everybody a big apology, and he needs to gather his folks so we don't, that the newspaper doesn't need to start a riot in our city.
Well, and that's an interesting point, Mike. And I actually saw an editorial piece on the Free Press last night, and it was not something that I was expecting to see from the Free Press. I mean, I thought they did a nice job of saying, look, it is what happened was kind of at the doing of Littleton's hands. I mean, he brought this on himself a little bit. And look, there was still some points that said, look, there's and I'd have to find the story here, but the overzealous actions of police, they used words like that. But overall, I thought the piece actually on the editorial piece that I read last night, and Mike, I appreciate the call. It really was, it was more complimentary to police in the way they handled it. And they said, look, obviously whenever somebody gets shot, it's a tragedy, but what do you expect them to do when you're firing rounds? What is the return course of action? So look, I know the way that the Free Press can cover some stories, there is a slant or they have an agenda. But I don't necessarily blame the whole paper or even all the writers. But I do think that even they saw what happened because Chief James Craig released that video the way he did, and then was able to see it just like any of us and go, okay, well, this was not an overreach of police force here. This was not overzealous police activity. And that's something that I think it was fairly obvious. But again, there will be an investigation that will be ongoing, and they'll continue to look at it. 800-859-0957, 800-859-WJR. Mark in Livonia. Good morning, Marcus.
Yes, I'm going to kind of disagree with you a little bit on something.
How dare you, Mark?
You're leaving yourself open to it can go both ways. But my point is that it can't be both ways. There's no other way that could have happened. I know that a lot of people are talking about these social workers coming out to handle domestic violence cases. Well, then you take a look at what happened to those two cops that got killed when they did that. And then the man turned the gun on himself, the young man. You can't do that. You don't know what he's going to do. And this particular kid that was shooting an automatic weapon at the head of a police officer, what else has he done? How many kids or family members has he been involved with getting hooked on drugs? Because that was a drug bust.
Well, okay, all right, but Mark, but I don't necessarily want to go down that aisle because I don't know. That's the information that I don't have, so I don't want to speculate on that. But when I say, what do you want them to do? I'm meaning, what do you want them to do? I mean, what do you want them to do in this situation? You want them to tase them? There is no other course of action here. When somebody's shooting at you or your partner, the only course of action is to return fire. They're a threat now.
Yeah, I know. I agree. That's what I agree with. All
yeah.
Stuff. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You can't do that. And that's my point. With the two cops that got killed in Texas, right?
Yes.
Cops that went on the domestic violence. And so what happens? This guy comes out and just shoots and kills two cops. And some people are talking about bringing a social worker out there.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's too dangerous.
Yeah. No, Mark, I completely agree. I absolutely understand, but and I appreciate the call. But in terms of the other information, that's the stuff that I don't know about. That's the stuff that will come out in an investigation. And yes, they said it was a drug bust, but that's not something that I'm privy to yet. And I don't believe any media members are at the moment. So we're going to wait and find out that information, and then we can comment on it. But in terms of the actions of Hakeem Littleton and in terms of the actions of the Detroit police officers, there was no abuse of power there by police. And in fact, if you really want to look at it, Littleton has shot 5 rounds. Police shot 4 from 3 different officers. So a use of overzealous force? I don't think so. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Clotting in almost every organ due to COVID upon autopsy. We'll get to that story coming up. First, let's check things out on the roadway with Dana Clark.
Roadways are not looking too bad this time around. Chris, US 23 northbound at 96 earlier accident is clear. You are delayed from at least Lee Road. Also, construction crews in that area causing slight delays. US 23 northbound at White Lake Road, that accident still working to clear the right lane, seeing a slowdown from Center Road. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by IBEW Local 58 and the National Electrical Contractors Association, NECA. Put the expertise and skill of NECA signatory contractors and IBEW electricians to work on your commercial, public, industrial, or residential construction project. Safety and proper PPE use matter more than ever. Start safe, stay safe. www.poweringmichigansfuture.com. It's going to be a pleasant day today, a high of 81, lots of sunshine. Tonight, clear, low 62. On into Tuesday, a little bit warmer, few clouds, mainly sun, a high of 85. And on Wednesday, we kick off the hotter temps for the rest of the week. More humidity, sun, clouds, could see a stray shower, a high of 89 degrees. Sunshine, currently 70 degrees. I'm Dana Clark, WJR News with Dick Hafner in about 2 minutes.
We started Untuck It to create the perfect Untuck shirts, but along the way,
and we'll be getting to you more calls soon, okay? Thanks. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
We have a question from Jason. Can you see Jason?
Yeah. Hi, Jason.
What the helmet on the top shelf? What is that?
So as some people know, I'm not sure that everybody does, but I do college football play-by-play for the Siena Heights Saints. Gotcha. Siena Heights University is a school down in Adrian. Yep. And so I do play-by-play for them. So they were nice enough to give me one of the team helmets a couple years ago. So
very cool.
Yeah. So that's the Saints helmet.
What's the little one next to it?
The little one also, again, play-by-play. So this year I was the play-by-play voice of the Quick Lane Bowl. So it's a little Quick Lane Bowl helmet. And then the football next to the Michigan helmet is a Quick Lane Bowl football, courtesy of the nice folks over at the Quick Lane Bowl. So yeah, so
very good.
That's what that stuff is.
Thank you, sir. I had to ask. This bothering me.
Yeah.
Hold on, Jason. I'll take the camera off you after I'm done sending this tweet.
Jerry Franks, Chris, great to have you as a substitute for Frank. I'm sure you appeal much more to Frank's viewers than some of his other substitutes on the station has chosen. Well, Jerry, look, I'm just doing my thing here. And, obviously we got a lot of great people that work with us. So we're very lucky. Barb Thorman says any media that uses social media as a source should be fired. Well, I agree to some extent, Barb, but in our business, we use a lot of social media just to kind of see what people are talking about, see what the, what kind of the hot stuff is. And then there's stories that we can find on social media too. So we don't necessarily use social media as a source, but we use social media sometimes to see what you guys want to talk about. So
right
that's kind of how that works.
Your background as a journalist, so you can tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I'm but a mere board operator. Moonlighting.
You're much more than that to me.
Oh, and a friend, and a husband, and a dog dad. But anyway, I would say that social media is good for leads, but yes, you obviously, if you're going to use social media as a source, you definitely got to follow up on it. It's good lead, but not a great.
It's all it is. That's all it is. And if you treat it that way, that's just what it is. And it doesn't become any more than that.
Right.
Rocco Yapello, great show. Christopher, you are very interesting. Love when you talk about your son, Jacob. You are the best. Thank you. That's very kind.
I was gonna say, when are you going to have Jacob fill in? I mean, people like you, but I think people would like to hear Jake's thoughts on all these issues.
I got to be honest, unless you just want to hear him sing Baby Shark for 3 hours, because that's all about he can add at this point.
That sounds more like a podcast on the radio.
Yeah, right. Barb, unfortunately, no one sees the rebuttal and the original story remains the truth. That's a good point, too. Anyway, we appreciate you guys watching on here. Thank you. It's very nice. So that we're just going to, this is kind of what we do during the breaks when we're on the air. We just kind of talk nonsense and talk with you guys. So that's cool. By the way, I went golfing yesterday.
Yeah, how'd you hit him?
Not great. I still broke 100. I think I shot a 99. So not great. But it was okay, and it was still hot, but it wasn't like hot like last week.
Right.
Last week's hot was hot.
I call that weather phenomena a heat milkshake, where it feels like you walk out of your house and there is just a wall that hits you.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's like Florida heat, that like sticky, humid awfulness.
My greatest golf accomplishment is that I got a free game at Pirates Cove in Traverse City, which to me is the premier miniature golf course in the state.
Was that a hole-in-one on 18?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh,
nice.
I think that's our next guest, Dr. Stephen Olmany. So entertain the folks while I take
All
this.
right, thank you, Michael.
I'll give a little behind the scenes here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we like that.
Frank Beckmann Show.
Anyway, if you guys want to hop on the show on the radio, feel free. It's 800-859-0957. You can see it on your crawl. We'd love to have you on the show. Obviously, you can text that number too. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can.
The doc is
we'll just kind of do our thing. Also, apparently, our friends on the text. Apparently, I misspoke. Apparently, I said squash, but I meant to say quash. So that's a tap on the chest. My bad.
I would feel in that context they're interchangeable. When you're talking about vegetable, when you're talking about vegetables, you can't switch out squash and quash. But in that context, I think, we're back to 15.
All right.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. That's the number for you to call or text. Of course, you can watch us on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Myself, Mike Parsons, Jason Fissler, the whole gang. But I found this story, and I just thought we had to bring it to you because it kind of was stunning to me. I hadn't really heard about this before as it relates to COVID, but it was something when I read it, it was pretty shocking to me. So I wanted to make sure we got a specialist on here to talk about this. But basically, pathologists are finding this, I believe, was in New York, but pathologists are finding upon autopsies that COVID-19 patients who've passed have blood clots in almost every organ of their body. And it was, look, I don't pretend to be the know-it-all on COVID, but I hadn't heard this before. So I want to welcome in Dr. Steve Almany, the cardiologist at Beaumont Hospital, to help us make sense of this. And good morning, Doc. How are you?
Hi, Chris. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk with you. Thank you. Tell me what you have heard or maybe seen in some of the patients that you may be seeing, or some of the patients that your colleagues are seeing. Is this something that you guys have noticed?
Yeah, it is, Chris. And, as you probably know, Beaumont was hit really hard.
Yeah.
One of the biggest centers in the United States. And I'll be very honest, we've learned a lot along the way. And this was, as you mentioned, not something we frankly expected. We've seen coronaviruses like the flu before, and we really, it was just something you didn't see. So, of the many things we've learned is that these people, especially the really critically ill ones that end up in the intensive care unit, that this is a massive inflammatory response, just massive. And they suffer damage not only in their lungs, as everybody knows, but also in the blood vessels. And with this going on, these people develop clots. And these clots not only can go to their lungs, but can go to their brain, their liver, even their toes. And so it's really changed the way we take care of these people now. And where we were not aggressive treating them with blood thinners when they came in, we are now.
Are you seeing it in patients who are fighting the virus and haven't passed? Is that something that continues to be a focus of yours?
That's a great question. So first of all, we have to remember that 80% of people that get this have mild to moderate symptoms.
Sure. Thank God.
Yes. Yeah. Thank God. But this doesn't spare anybody. Black, white, brown, men, women, young, old, and we're obviously, as you know, seeing a lot of young people now, which is a whole separate discussion. But we're seeing people that are critically ill, usually the ones that require, oxygen treatment or ventilators or go to the ICU. These are the people that, Chris, are getting blood clots in all these different areas. You introduced me as a cardiologist. One of the concerns we had was it going to your heart vessels.
Sure.
That's pretty rare. So we're seeing more of this going to your brain, your lungs, and your kidneys. And it's really dramatic, and it's probably one of the things that leads to the demise of a lot of the people in the ICU.
What have you seen from your patients, or like I mentioned, your colleagues' patients of people who are recovering, and maybe now test positive after testing, or I'm sorry, test negative after testing positive? Are they seeing some sort of lingering symptoms? Is this something that they continue to monitor after the fact?
So a couple things. One, we don't know if you've had it, if you were immune in the future. So that's one thing we have to bring up. So anybody out there who's had it, don't think you're free and clear. Still wear a mask. The big concern that all of us have, and what are the long-term effects of this? So, if you've had, significant lung disease, are you going to have emphysema later, asthma, things like that? We won't know for years, but I would not imagine that there are some long-term sequelae if you were pretty sick, even if you recovered.
Doc, you've been in practice for a while. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, there's absolutely nothing like this we've ever seen. Most of the people that listen to you will remember that we were worried about, H1N1, and we were worried about Ebola and MERS and SARS. And some of those, like Ebola and SARS, were actually more deadly, but they did not spread like this. And this has a coefficient that's unbelievable. And, one person can affect up to 40, where, like the regular flu, it's usually like a 1-to-1, 1-to-2. So the difference is it's probably more virulent, worse symptoms, but it is just so contagious, which is why this is, spread around the country and the world.
And obviously with the mask, the hand washing things that we've heard over and over again, and I don't need to go over that again, but the importance of continuing to, and I'm not saying, lock yourself down, but just continuing to do the simple things that if you don't really need to go out, don't go out, and just stuff like that. I mean, those things, I imagine, coming from a doctor's perspective or a nurse's perspective, first responding perspective, that's just something that I'm sure you guys continue to preach to your patients.
Yeah, I'm sitting in our office now, and I'm sitting, 10 feet from one of our nurses. We both wear masks.
Yeah.
We wear masks every day. At Beaumont, you have to wear a mask all day. One of the things that concerns me are people downplaying this, particularly younger people and going to parties. And, you've read around the country what's happened there. Mm-hmm. And don't think this spares people, because it doesn't. People in their 20s die. And a simple thing like wearing your mask, not rubbing your face, washing your hands, makes a huge difference. And the reality is, even if we have a vaccine down the line, there's no proof that it's going to work for everybody. Just like when you get the flu vaccine, it only works for about half the people. So, this is going to go on for a while. It'll probably really come back in the fall when the weather cools off. I'm very worried about things like football games and kids going back to college. You have to take precautions here. You do not want to get this illness. You just don't want to get it.
Yeah, and there was a report, and not to get all sportsy on you here, but there was a report from the University of Maryland that's, I think, 6 or 7 players tested positive, and it's just we've heard doctors say before, we don't know how there's going to be football. In terms of,
Chris.
Yeah.
Not only the practice, but I mean these kids laying on top of each other,
Yeah.
struggling with each other, spit, saliva. I personally don't know. And I would not doubt you see the football get moved to the spring.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Well, lots of really interesting stuff. And like I said, I hadn't seen the blood clotting thing until just this weekend. So that just another scary thing to add to the mix that is COVID. So, Doctor, we appreciate your time. Dr. Steve Almany, cardiologist at Beaumont Hospital. Thanks for taking some time with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
You got it. Frank Beckmann Show continues. Chris Renwick filling in. Phone number and text number for you is 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. If you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, it's scrolling right there at the bottom. For the rest of you, we'll get to more of your calls and your texts next. But first, out to the roadways with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
US 23 northbound at White Lake, that earlier accident is finally clear. Still dealing with that exit ramp closure along 75 Square Lake eastbound at Updike. That ramp closed down for at least a week following that tanker fire on Saturday night. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by the law firm of Victoria. Divorce and family law for women only. Family members and friends, pass this info on to your loved ones. Asset protection, best interest of the children. The conversation starts with the law firm of Victoria. Call 248-723-1600, victorialawfirm.com.
Seasonable temperatures over the next few days. The ridge is going to build the heat to the south of us. A few clouds around this morning. Some clouds with sun this afternoon. High 81. Tonight will clear at 63. Actually pretty comfortable. Sunshine and a few clouds tomorrow with high 84. Middle 80s and dry weather continuing on Wednesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ray Stajic on News Talk 760 WJR.
All right, so I reordered your phone calls. Couple drops. So
Okay, so where do you want me to start here? It's
Cecilia Novi.
Cecilia Novi. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
we'll go to Cecilia next. So Cecilia, hold tight.
Yep, she has a nephew who's a DPD officer.
Okay.
We had our first blooper in that. I don't know if anybody caught that, but I kept looking at the graphic I put up for Dr. Stephen Almany, and I said he's a cardiologist at Beaumont. So, with my luck, that'll be like the preview screen,
Oh, that's funny. Jay-Z, this information was released 5 weeks ago. Happy to see someone finally talk about it. Jay, that's my bad. I hadn't seen the blood clot story, and it was like I said, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I mean, look, the whole thing is crazy to me. I don't understand it. This virus is just bizarre and does crazy things. So no, I hadn't seen it. So Jay, my bad, but I'm glad we can talk about it now.
Well, and info changes so much. I mean, the scientific method is not meant for the 24-hour news cycle. From what I understand from my high school science class, the scientific method is hypothesis, experiment, conclusion, and then you retest it thousands and thousands of times.
Right.
And so, we're so hungry for more information on this coronavirus that everything gets reported as it's released. So scientists put out one study that this happens, it gets reported on, and then they get another study that contradicts it, that gets reported on, and then we're just confused, or info like this that's really important gets lost in the shuffle. So it's a challenge to try to stay on top of all of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and even the people that we really super rely on for the information, like, and maybe not so much anymore, but the World Health Organization, they'll come out one day and say, good news, you can't get this from surfaces. But then literally 12 hours later, they're like, well, never mind. Actually, we need to do more research. And it's like, well, they don't even say that in the first place.
Well, the one with me, I'm old and creaky, so, I take a fair share of ibuprofen. And I remember in 1 week, back in 30, in 1 week, the stance on ibuprofen changed. One day it was ibuprofen makes symptoms worse. Next day, ibuprofen is fine. Next day it's worse. Next day, ibuprofen's fine again. So it's
I think it just goes to the fact that everybody else is just trying to figure it out too.
Right. I mean, our hair's on fire, and if I see someone post a link about it, it's more than a week old, I disregard it.
No, it's kind of true. You're not wrong.
All right, here we come.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Number for you to call or text. I know we've got a few people here that still want to talk about what happened on Friday with the police shooting in Detroit. So let's go to Novi and Cecilia. Good morning, Cecilia.
Russ, thank you for taking my call.
You got it.
Hey, I just want to make a comment, and I hope Chief Craig is listening. You are a class act. I think the man is tremendous. I give him a lot of credit for what he does. He's got a tough job. But I also want to say I have a nephew in that precinct where this took place, so I'm a little bit probably more scared than a lot of other people out there about what took place. But I think the media, and I have to agree with some of the callers that have called in, and along with Chief Craig, the media is they want to be first. I hear this a lot on radio stations, on TV stations with the reporters. We want to be first. But the unfortunate part of this is that the information that they put out is incorrect, and they have to come back and retract it and change it. So that's a problem right there. And one of the TV reporters was walking with one of the Black Lives Matter, it was a lady, and she said, we heard the rumor. And that's why, she said that I think they actually went down to that precinct, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a problem because it was a rumor. They didn't even hear the correct information. They didn't wait for it. They just wanted to storm down there and start trouble. And that's the problem. The media needs to, I agree, hold back on some of the information that they send out so that they can let the chief come in and explain what really took place. And I will say this, these officers have split-second decisions to make when they're being shot at. And that's another thing people don't realize. If you were in the predicament that they were in, you would think twice about the decisions that they have to make.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's the danger. When I say, what do you want the police officers to do when they're being shot at? They don't have time to think, oh, well, maybe I'll pull my taser. Maybe I'll pull my gun. Maybe I'll just try to tackle them. Maybe I'll try to, they don't have time for that. And when you're being shot at, to me, that the return response is in some capacity that it answers the perpetrator's actions. So in this case, they're being shot at. They're gonna return fire, especially when the Littleton fires 5 shots. I mean, look, I don't know what else there is to do in that situation. So when you talk about having somebody on the police force in that precinct, I that to me is it's scary. It is scary. And in terms of the media's responsibility in this, that's kind of been the trend for a long time. That whole we got to be first. We got to get out with this first. And if we got to retract it, if we got to make corrections, we'll do it. But we got to get out with it first. And it is dangerous. It is. When and look, and I don't know exactly in terms of the time frame on when the media got a hold of the information that he was sitting on the porch, or whether that started on social media and that kind of permeated through to the protesters. I don't know for sure, but the social media aspect is not something the media can really help. It's not something the media can really change, because once it's out there, it's out there. And we teach our kids that, like, well, when you're on social media, be careful. Or you teach your grandkids, when you're on social media, be careful, because it's going to be out there forever. There's nothing you can do when you post it. So when it's out there, it's out there. And that's the dangerous part. Cecilia, I appreciate the call. Thank you. Let's go to Sandy in Northville. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. My point, I think these protesters are trying to tyrannize the police by always showing up and making them explain every step they take on every police action. No one asks these protesters to be out there. They go themselves, and I think they have an ulterior motive beyond tyrannizing the police. I think they're Marxist communists who are being paid by other people, like maybe George Soros and that, to show up there and cause trouble and ultimately try and change the kind of country that we have and reduce our police presence while they try and take over. And I think that's what they're doing. And there's a higher motivation behind what they're doing. And I think Police Chief Craig is absolutely right about the media. These people are out there causing trouble themselves because they are greedy people. They want news all the time, so they'll make it themselves if they have to. And they're also looking at enhancing their own careers so they can sensationalize everything, be at the forefront of that sensationalizing, and have themselves out in front of a camera saying, oh, look at me say this and that.
Well, Sandy, I think you're right on a couple things for sure. I think when you say that the protesters, especially among some of the, at least the organizers in a lot of these places, when you hear about defunding police, like for example, I heard a interview on Fox News the other day with the leader of the Black Lives Matter movement in Philadelphia, and she told them that they wanted to fund police over a 5-year span. So over the 5 years, they want them to incrementally decrease their funding. And then when they get to that 5-year mark, they don't want to see police officers in Philadelphia at all, because they're going to be community policing. And so when you say decreasing the police presence, I think you're right to some extent. I don't know that if Detroit Will Breathe and Tristan Taylor are after that for sure. I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other from him on that, but a lot of those people are calling for defunding the police, the protesters. So for me, I think you're 100% right with that, in terms of they want to see a depleted police force, or at least depleted funds, which would then in turn lead to not being able to pay police to be on the force. So I think you're probably right on that, Sandy. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. I'll tell you what, let's go to Bill in Farmington Hills. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Hey, how's our favorite pinch hitter for Frank this morning?
Oh, I'm just fine. Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Hey, Chris, there's been some very good comments made so far. The point I'd like to make is that these reporters, these protesters, have never faced a real life situation where they've had to look down the barrel of a gun or face any kind of life or death situation. Now, this is not a video game where you can hit pause and then contemplate what your next, course of action will be. These split-second decisions.
Well, it certainly was in this case. I mean, I think in other cases, maybe you do have a little more time to figure out your counter move. But in this situation, it was very much a split second decision. It was very much bullets are flying and the guy standing 5 feet away from you. I mean, there is no faster decision that needs to be made. So when I say, what do you want the officers to do? I haven't been given a good enough answer. Nobody's proposed a different way for the officers to act in this situation. So for me,
there is no better.
And unfortunately, again, look, somebody's dead because of this, and it's sure as heck seems to be based on his actions. But again, what do you want to do? I haven't been given a good explanation on what should have been done.
One other point too, Chris. Not only the lives of the officers are at risk, but innocent bystanders. And if this guy can't hit a cop that's 5 feet away, maybe he shoots off into somebody's home and kills a 5-year-old child.
Well, Bill, and that's another great point because obviously we are huge supporters of police on this show and will continue to be. But police are not only looking out for themselves in that situation. Those 4 officers weren't just looking out for themselves. They were looking out for everybody else in that neighborhood. And you're 100% right on that. Heaven forbid a stray bullet went through somebody's living room window or into a car or my God, I mean, it could have been a disastrous situation. And yes, a police officer could have been shot and lost his life. Absolutely. Which would have been a tragedy. But then also, I mean, somebody innocent across the street could have been hit, which would have been an equal tragedy. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Bill. Thank you for the call. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Lots of stuff happening in Washington, D.C., too, that I want to get to next. Obviously, big news over the weekend. Donald Trump made a big pardon and commuted somebody's sentence. We'll tell you who that was and kind of the fallout from that coming up next. 800-859-0957. First to the roadways with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
You just take a couple of seconds. Okay, hold on. 94 westbound at Maras, earlier accident is blocking the right side. Maintenance crews now causing delays along US 23 northbound at 96. Traffic is slow from at least Lee Road. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by the law firm of Victoria Divorce and Family Law for women only. Family members and friends passes information on to your loved ones. Asset protection, best interest of the children. The conversation starts with the law firm of Victoria. Call 248-723-1600, victorialawfirm.com. Expecting some sun, some clouds today. Nice, comfortable 81 degrees for the high tonight. Clouds giving way to clear skies, your low 62. Currently 70 degrees. I'm Dana Clark, WJR News with Dick Hafner in 2 minutes.
Gretchen Whitmer is trying to destroy Michigan jobs. She kept the state shut down.
All right, so we got Bob coming up here at 35.
Yep. For our friends on Facebook and YouTube, Bob Costantini's coming up from Westwood One News. So a little, you guys get the first scoop on that. So we'll look and obviously the president made some news this weekend, commuting the sentence of Roger Stone, which I think a lot of people thought that was probably coming, Mike.
Yeah, it was and then somehow Roger Stone having his sentence commuted has led to Lindsey Graham announcing that Robert Mueller is going to testify in the Russian probe now.
Yeah, that's wild. I guess I'm wondering if he's going to even accept or not.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't. To me, I had to reread the article a couple times because I was just like, number one, I thought it was an old article because I'm like, okay, this has got to be
right. Sure.
It sounds like Lindsey Graham is pretty confident that Robert Mueller his testimony is going to exonerate everything because why else would he in response to Robert Mueller's op-ed about Roger Stone, why else would he be so willing to call him in front of Congress?
Well, remember in the Mueller report, Robert Mueller said basically there was obstruction of justice is what he found, but there was no collusion, and so it was the collusion part that basically said he left it up to Bill Barr to say, look, do with it what you will. If you feel that there's enough there to bring some sort of crime against the president, then that's up to you. But if not, he left it kind of open ended. So I'm interested to know what Lindsey Graham would have to say.
Right. And I'm glad you're on top of it because sometimes I feel like I'm dropping in on like season 7 of a Netflix series that I need to go back
interesting.
Yeah. Because even the stuff that I remember, I forgot. I guess. I mean, it's such a tangled web.
No doubt. Mark Gardner, love the behind the scene view. Awesome job. Yeah, that's cool. Mark, it's fun. And obviously, if you guys want to hop in to talk about what we're talking about, we can, have a conversation with you on here too. And remember, you can see it there on the ticker right below over here now. There it is. 800-859-0957. You can call or text at that number too. So we can get you on the show as well. It's the Lindsey Graham stuff is interesting. And now he's like, well, the Democrats want him, so we're going to bring him in. So there seems to be some sort of ulterior motive there, but I'm convinced that Mueller will just say no.
Probably
he won't come in to testify.
And maybe, and you know what? Maybe that's what Lindsey Graham is counting on, that he'll turn down the invitation, and then they can say, "See, they got nothing," or else he would have testified.
Well, what I find interesting though is Robert Mueller wrote the op-ed in the what was it, the Washington Post?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because again, I thought he was kind of going to go radio silent, but if he's writing an op-ed, maybe he will come.
Right. Yeah, and if I remember, his final conclusion was kind of wishy-washy. It was like you said. He said there is collusion. But I'm not going to come out and say it, but I'm going to try to breadcrumb you to certain things that could be something. And so far it hasn't materialized in any severe consequences.
That's why the Democrats were so upset, because they thought that it was just leaving the door open for Bill Barr to say, there's nothing wrong here. So that's why I said, everybody, Bill Barr is just, a Trump lackey. But in reality, as the attorney general, he looked at it and said, there's nothing here. I can't do anything because Mueller said, there was obstruction, but there was no collusion. So,
yeah. And unless, Mueller has verifiable pictures and videotapes and concrete proof, I can see this easily backfiring on the Democrats, which I'm sure Lindsey Graham, that might be part of his plan in this as well. So. Just a complete mess.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt.
Coming up with Chris Renwick.
2 minutes. All right, 2 minutes. And if Bob's a little late, that's fine because we have full lines and
cool.
A lot of great calls.
Yeah, cool.
Over 5,700 stations across our great nation. Our people are working hard every day to provide you with quality top-tier gasoline to improve engine performance and fuel your life.
So this thing has a fun green screen feature, which Rich Luzinski was messing with. Maybe I might, I might do. Maybe I'll put a green screen up and wear nothing but green, so I just look like
it's just a floating head.
Yeah, I'll have like the wizard from the Wizard of Oz.
I like that.
Back there, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
this has got to be rich.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur resources and buyer and supplier matchmaking.
I'd like that.
Jason and I were talking. That Dr. Stephen Albany guy sounded like he had a radio voice.
He could be.
Yeah, he was great. I was a little worried about my job security.
That's right. Tune in tomorrow as Dr. Steve Albany fills in for Chris Renwick, who's filling in for Frank Beckmann. I believe that's Bob.
Okay.
Frank Beckmann Show. Hey, Bob, thanks for taking some time. You're going to be speaking with Chris, who's in for Frank, who's vacationing. Chris Renwick. Thanks, Bob. 30. Bob says he's not doing it if he's not talking to Frank.
I mean, I understand that.
He's very disappointed. How long, Jason?
25.
25. All right. I'm going to go away now.
Okay.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
So big goings on in D.C. this weekend. Some sparks flew as President Trump announced that he was commuting the sentence of Roger Stone. And it was something that, there had been rumors that maybe the president was thinking about it and whether he would actually follow through with it. Well, he did. Now we're bringing the Mueller probe of the Trump campaign's handling of Russia, and that whole thing's coming back into the mix. And it's a story that just won't seem to go away. And as we get closer to election time, I imagine that it probably won't either. Bob Costantini, White House correspondent for Westwood One, joining us now. Good morning to you, Bob.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. Obviously, again, like I said, this is something that kind of had been ruminating for a little while, and finally the president made good with I guess something that he had mentioned before, and came through and commutes Roger Stone this weekend.
It wasn't much of a rumor, even really. It was straight up that the president felt he believes that Roger Stone was not treated fairly, and so. When the president decided on Friday night that he was going to commute Roger Stone's sentence, he even called Roger Stone his old friend. So the president, this is something I've never heard before, that if you get a presidential commutation or a pardon, in this case a commutation, that you get a call from the president directly. Usually it's handled by lawyers. So Stone is pleased with the idea of a commutation, by the way, and the president supposedly told him this, that he can still fight the legal battle. He is still considered convicted. However, the commutation prevents him from going to prison again tomorrow, as was the case. He was supposed to start a 40-month sentence tomorrow. And so Roger Stone will continue his legal battle to try to clear his name. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, Democrats, of course, are denouncing this as an attempt by the president to protect someone who had protected him all along. And Roger Stone vowed he would never turn against the president. The president never turned against him in the end with this. So the fallout, there will be some political fallout, one would assume. However, Chris, the president says everybody's happy with his decision because Roger Stone was treated unfairly.
In the meantime, Senator Graham came out this weekend and said that he's going to honor the request of his fellow Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee who wanted Robert Mueller to testify. He says he's going to grant that. They're going to invite Robert Mueller to Capitol Hill to testify in the Senate. What are you hearing on that?
Yeah, look, this commutation is something that has triggered something in Robert Mueller, who has been laying low ever since delivering his report and doing some half unwilling testimony on Capitol Hill about the report. The commutation prompted Mueller to write an editorial in the Washington Post that was posted over the weekend, and he has said he was defending his prosecution overall in that editorial, and said that Roger Stone remains someone who was convicted. Stone was prosecuted and convicted because he committed federal crimes. That's one of the things that Mueller had written in that op-ed piece. And apparently he's triggered enough by this commutation that he's willing, it seems, to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee, something that the president's usually loyal friend Lindsey Graham has decided he'll let happen. He's the chairman of that committee. So it may be some interesting testimony to hear when Robert Mueller decides to testify this time around, at least in the wake of the Stone commutation.
Bob Costantini, always ear to the ground in D.C. We appreciate the time, Bob. Thank you.
All right. Chris, a pleasure. Take care. Thanks.
You got it. You too. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. That's obviously there for you as well, so we can hit on that. I know we got a lot of stuff to get to still, and people on the line like Jim in Indian River, who's been waiting. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
What can I do for you?
Hey, I'm reading the Detroit News this morning online, and our Secretary of State has instituted online applications for absentee voting. However, it violates the state law because you can't, there's no requirement to put a signature on so that the county clerks can actually check and confirm that, oh yes, this is an absentee voter. There's the signature, it matches, send them a ballot. My wife and I have been absentee balloting for a long time. And every time the clerk sends a thing out, you sign it, put your signature on, and you send it in, and the clerk can verify that that's who we are. And this is the article in the news was written by the previous by Ruth Benson, and points out some things that
Ruth Johnson.
How can
Ruth Johnson, you mean? Yeah.
Yes. But she points out, how can she just go against the law? She doesn't work with the legislature, doesn't work with anybody, and sends out an application. How can you do that? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's been a major complaint, Jim, and I appreciate the call. Thank you. That's been a complaint on Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson on this process, and a lot of people have called her to task on it because it's not something that seems is on the up and up. And again, people are just worried about voter fraud, and that's what this comes down to. Like you mentioned, comparing the signatures that they have on file to the signature that's on the absentee ballot. So yeah, that is a major concern. There's no doubt. Jim, I appreciate the call. Thank you. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJ. Remember, you can watch us live on Facebook and on YouTube, and you can call or text here. You can message us there. A lot of ways for you to take in the show today. In the meantime, let's head on out to Dana Clark. Check things out there with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
Chris, just watching that earlier crash 94 westbound at Morass. That wreck is working to clear on that right side, and maintenance crews causing delays in Livingston County along US 23 northbound at 96. Traffic is slow from Lee Road. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Chris Furniture. This summer, enjoy spending time with your family around a new dining room set from Chris Furniture, U.S. made of solid wood, direct from the manufacturer. Chris Furniture in Livonia, on the corner of Plymouth and Farmington Roads, or chrisfurnitureinc.com.
No complaints here. Pretty good forecast as we kick off the new week. A few clouds around early, some clouds at sunshine later, 81. Tonight, clear it after some clouds early, a comfortable 63. Some areas pop into the 50s. Sunshine with some afternoon clouds tomorrow and a high near 84. Wednesday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, staying in the middle 80s. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ray Staging on News Talk 760 WJR.
If you're wearing a COVID mask, Gamer Advantage's new anti-fog spray will prevent every breath you take from blocking your view. And if you experience high...
Oh, another call. Oh, someone called in already.
Livonia? Oh, no, that's Greg calling. Greg, get a light.
Steve Bagadinsky. Great. Now I won't have to waste my time today. All right, Steve.
Well,
that's cool, man.
We like to help with efficiency, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, we're moving today, it feels like. Holy moly.
Closing in on 11 o'clock already.
My goodness.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, are you on Wi-Fi or are you hardwired in?
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Am I cutting out?
You're not cutting out a lot. You cut out a couple times, but sometimes your picture gets a little fuzzy.
Oh, my picture. Okay.
Yeah. But so far it's been holding strong.
Okay, good.
Frank Beckmann Show result.
We're taking extra steps to protect the health and safety of all our patients and caregivers so you can feel confident coming to Beaumont. Come to us in an emergency. Talk to your doctor.
I forgot to turn my air down, like I don't know, my AC on. It's hot up here, man. Jeez.
Yeah, nothing like a hot cup of coffee
man
on a hot day. Well, you don't look too sweaty yet.
Yet.
But we still have an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, my goodness. This stuff with these players out at the University of Maryland who tested positive. I really don't see how there's going to be a college football season.
No, I think what's going to happen if they postpone it till the spring, I think it's as good as canceled.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to play.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, even pro football, it's going to take one little outbreak and.
Right. One person, I mean, there's got to be a plan in place for if a player on a team tests positive. I mean, can you still play? Do you have to shut the whole thing down?
Right.
And I have to say, last week felt like early March. Once one conference started announcing they're going to be conference only, it felt like last March when it went from no fans to the conference tournaments were canceled to no fans of the big dance to canceled.
You're talking about basketball.
Yeah. Back then in March, but now with everyone kind of following suit of the Big Ten going to conference only, I'm like the next step is just canceling the season.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I got to be honest, I don't know.
30 seconds.
Back in 30. I don't know how a conference only schedule is safer than a regular schedule.
No, I mean you're still playing football.
Right. Yeah, and Jason said, you're not traveling as far.
Like baseball's only doing regional.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're not traveling as far.
But I still think you're traveling from city to city, spreading it if you have it.
Absolutely.
So, all right, 5 seconds.
No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
Welcome back, 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. That's the number for you to call or text. Lots to get to today. Obviously, the 11 o'clock hour is all you. And just the shooting in Detroit on Friday afternoon. We've been rapping about that. We've been talking a little bit about COVID today as well. There's been kind of an increase in at least people and doctors and nurses seeing that there is clotting in organs when some people pass from the virus. So it was something that I had just seen, and it was kind of jarring. I hadn't seen it before. So we're talking about that. Obviously, what's going on in D.C. with the commutation of Roger Stone by the president. Now Lindsey Graham's calling on Robert Mueller to come testify. So there's a lot of stuff for you out there as well. And again, the Washington Redskins coming out and saying, well, we are changing the name. We're retiring the nickname Redskins, and we're going to come up with something new. Meanwhile, the Maryland Terrapins in the Big Ten East, they're talking about 9 players testing positive for the coronavirus. And it just begs the question, are we going to see football this year? At any level, I guess you could say, but specifically college football, I'm not sure. It's going to take one of these teams to a number of players test positive, and then you're not going to be able to play football, or you're at least not going to be able to play against them. So I don't know how it's going to go, but we'll keep an eye out on that for you as well. Like I mentioned, 800-859-0957. Let's go to Robert in Sterling Heights. Good morning, Robert.
Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Too. I'm really excited about the new release of the Ford Bronco today. That's going to be great.
That is cool.
But I did want to talk about the situation down in Detroit with the police. And I did see the video, and I think I talked to you about it. And the police officer actually, as he's being shot at, or the gun was pointed at him, he ran towards him, which is something you generally never do. Usually your instinct is to take cover, especially someone throws a baseball at you, you take cover. So it goes to his bravery, how he handled the situation. And I wanted to say how those police officers didn't even have any body armor on. I think instead of defunding the police, we ought to give them more money, because a lot of police have to buy their own body armor, which is a shame. And a lot of people think that that's a tactical situation. It militarizes the police and everything, but it's going to save your life.
Well, Robert, and let me expand on that, because not only did he run towards to Hakeem Littleton, but he didn't even have his gun drawn. His gun was still in his holster. I mean, they were not there to shoot anybody. So you talk about running towards them. Yes, heroic. You talk about the gun being actually holstered, and they weren't there for a fight. They weren't there to shoot anybody. They weren't there to cause any problems. They were there on an alleged drug bust or investigation into information they had on a drug ring in the area. So they weren't there to start trouble. They were just there doing their jobs. And then you got bullets flying at you. And instead of running away, they always run too. So yes, heroic is it's something that I would use as well. Let's go to Detroit Super Cide. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chris. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? What's going on?
Hey, I am inspired. I am wisdom off the hook right about now. So let me
all right.
Yeah,
what can I do for you?
Subjects. That would be one would be about the police situation, and the other one is about this COVID-19 situation that's going on. These laws and these rules that's going on right now. Hey, so right now it's all about these business owners. Are they going to show up and show out? Are they going to be held accountable for making people wear face masks? All in not just Detroit, but Metro.
Good question.
Not just Detroit, but in Michigan as well. Yeah. So basically, we need to know from the mayor's office, from the police chief, and from the governor, how are you going to enforce this? Are you going to be bringing this to these store owners who just don't really care? Some of them stand behind their plexiglass and they don't care.
All right, Soup.
Accountable.
Before you go on, I want to just address that. It's going to be very hard to enforce it. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to enforce, especially from a law enforcement perspective. I mean, you're going to have, if you're going to Costco or Target or whatever, and you're not wearing your mask and they say you can't come in, what are they going to do? Call the police? I mean, it's a very hard thing to enforce. I completely agree with you.
For one, they should have security. So what they need to do is get with the government, local, state, or whatever, hire for new security guards, have security guards at the doors. You will not be allowed in. Now, if you do get in there and you don't have on a face mask, call the police. And guess what? They need to say, you know what? If the police have to come out there for your behind and you don't have a mask on, not no $500, $3,000, $4,000. They need to up the ante. But first, the ante needs to be upped on the actual store owners. They have to take more onus. They have to be more voiceful, and they have to say, you know what? I don't care about your threats. I don't care about how you feeling. You're not getting service unless you have on the mask.
All right, and let me say this, Soup, real quick, because I want to get to your thoughts on the shooting in Detroit too. But the thing that I struggle with in terms of handing out misdemeanors or fines for people. So you're telling me when things kind of get back to normal, hopefully sooner than later, that you're going to have people go into court to fight a misdemeanor charge for not wearing a mask? That it just doesn't seem like that's something like you're going to bog the court system down on misdemeanors on not wearing a mask. That seems like it would be difficult. But I want to know what you thought about the shooting. I know you said you want to talk about that too.
Right. Chris, masks save lives. So it shouldn't even be, it should be something in between a misdemeanor and a felony, because lives are at stake right now. And you want to act like a big baby about wearing a mask. Are you kidding me? No, that has to be, it has to be regulated, and it will be. But you know, these officials have to do the right thing, and the store owners. Now,
all right, fair enough.
Hakeem, it's a culture that allows him or backs him on doing what he did. It's a mental illness, street type of culture, you know, where they want to be hood fabulous and things of that nature, and just, you know, be, you know, super rebels or just madness. So here's the thing, that has to be stopped. Black lives matter, like all lives matter. But so here's the thing, when you say that, you have to say, look, you know what, you cannot go out and terrorize your own neighborhood. We're not going to let that happen, the people in the African-American neighborhood. So what has to happen is tougher laws. We have to have tougher laws for individuals that want to tear up the city, dirty up the city, do what they want to do, get crazy and things like that. And we have to have facial recognition, not just for Detroit, but also for Metro Detroit and things of those nature. So,
Soup, real quick. Do you think that there was an excessive use of force here, or do you think that the response from the police was accurate?
Yeah, it was accurate. I mean, he had a split. You have a split second to make a decision, and when somebody does something like that, because that kid was out of control, because he's a part of a street culture that has to be checked and stopped. You know,
Interesting thoughts, Soup. I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Super C-Day. I love hearing from Soup. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR, number for you to call or text. Let's check things out on the roadway with Dana Clark.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
The roadways are not looking too bad, seeing some construction delays along US 23 northbound at 96. Maintenance crews causing delays, traffic slow from Lee Road. Also 94 westbound at Moross. Accident is blocking the right side. Now WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Sunshine, a little bit cooler today. Breezy, in fact. Some clouds later this afternoon, a high of 81 degrees. Tonight, some clouds this evening, then clear skies, your low 62 for Tuesday. Few afternoon clouds, but mainly sunny, a high of 85 degrees. For Wednesday, things start to heat up. Some clouds, some sun, could see a stray shower, a high of 89. Partly cloudy, 72 degrees. I'm Dana Clark, WJR News, with Dick Hafner in about 2 minutes.
Farmers put food on our tables, and Michigan farmers are proud to support Republican.
As the appropriations share in the Michigan House.
Let's see, we lost one. Oh, that was Reseda. All right.
A 96% voting record with the Michigan Farm Bureau. Shane Hernandez advances sound public policy and fights government overreach. Shane Hernandez, a friend of agriculture, a friend to you. Vote Republican Shane Hernandez for Congress. Paid for by Farm Act, the Independent Expenditure Committee.
I have to say it's interesting, Chris. You know, when we just kind of open the lines and see what people want to talk about, I think that was our first call about
masks.
The masks today.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to bring up here in the 11 o'clock hour. I do struggle to know how this is really enforceable. I mean, it's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deterrent. I'm sure you're probably bringing up the Van Buren County Sheriff in the 11 o'clock hour. Yeah. I mean, he came out and said that he personally wears a mask.
Yes, I do too.
People should wear a mask. However, he can't stretch his manpower and resources into enforcing it legally.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Super Racide did bring up a point. You know, obviously, most stores can't afford a private security force to enforce the mask mandate. However, you know, the people working in retail, you know, they're not trained or paid to do that either. So Frank Beckmann shall be told.
800-656-1155. 800-656-1155. WJR Detroit and WTVD HD2 Detroit. 760 WJR.
Summer school
Let's see.
for some Detroit public school students amid protests.
Hi, everybody on here. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Maria Grantham. There's not enough money to pay these people that they expect to stand at the door or approach people once they get in a store and tell them to wear a mask. People are looking for reason to escalate the situation. That's interesting. Maybe. I mean, I think it's, I think if you're Walmart, if you're Target, if you're any of those Meijer establishments, you probably can pay somebody to sit out there and just make sure people are wearing masks. Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's. But I think once you start getting into smaller establishments, I think it gets difficult. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, we're still lying pretty low. I mean, we kind of only go out when we need to.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, I think most people are wearing masks.
I do too. At least around here. I went to another part of the state for a wedding a couple weeks ago, and that part of the state nobody was wearing them. But
really,
they also weren't a hot spot, so maybe they didn't feel like it was.
Where
necessary.
were you at?
I was out Jackson Way.
Oh, okay.
So
they haven't been hit particularly hard.
Yeah, thank God, because I've got a lot of family
Sure.
out there. Jason brought up a point, and I saw this the other day, walking into Meijer. Yeah, Meijer is just they just have their normal greeters sitting at the door, and
Sure.
I guess
now I would get somebody that's a little more trained.
Yeah, like maybe a loss prevention person,
Maybe like a bouncer,
right? Yeah, if the NFL season goes bust, I mean, there'll be a lot of linemen that, might be
looking for work
to supplement their income. But yeah, I mean, she does make a point that, let's make sure she's, a lot of these businesses can't afford it. I don't think the edict was put into place to escalate the situation. I think like a lot of what has happened, it's been done with good intentions. But not really keeping in mind the consequences.
Some people, by the way, have been critical of the hat.
Really?
Now I'll tell you,
Nike or what?
Yeah, it's not. It's believe me, it's nothing like that. Of course not. But I do need some new hats. So that's number one. But number two, full disclosure for my friends here on Facebook and on YouTube, I just didn't do my hair this morning, so I just threw the hat on, which is lazy, admittedly.
And he's going to have Jake out.
But maybe I'm going to have to do some. Maybe I'll put some gel and stuff into it or something.
Well, we're finally joining this brave new world of video streaming. But for the most part, radio people, we're notoriously lazy about our appearance.
Yes, it's true.
So my guess is you just got up, said, "Oh, I'm going to be on video, so I'm just going to throw a hat on."
Hat.
Yeah.
Jones Industrials are up 400.
Sounds like we're getting close here.
Yeah, I've got a couple minutes, it looks like.
Yeah, we'll have about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Is up 190.
Yeah, I know that there are some people who'd like to see Jake, but I don't know. As a parent, I'd be leery about that.
No, Jake's not going to make a parent. Plus, Jake, Jake's in the cast, so Jake had a little accident and hurt himself. So he's in a little half cast on his right leg right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we're only a week. We got a week left of it, and then he's back to normal. But so he's a little more moody, I would say.
Yeah.
Nobody really likes a cast.
Have you ever had a cast?
I have not. I have never had a cast, and I had never even seen a cast being put on. So when I'd never seen it. It was interesting. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah, the worst part of a cast is when you have an itch inside the cat.
I got to give him a lot of credit because he doesn't seem to be bothered by it at all.
That's
mean, he can't walk, obviously, but he's crawling around a lot. So, but Yeah. So anyway,
that's all right. At his age, even kids with healthy legs can't walk yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, fun fact: if you ever have an itch with a cast, just use a pencil eraser. It works. It works wonders.
See, now the pencil eraser, I'd be worried that it gets stuck in there.
That's true.
You almost need like one of those like long wooden dowels that you can get at like Michael's or Joann Fabrics.
Oh shoot, we're back. Hold on.
The Frank Beckman Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckman, here's Chris Renwick.
Too early there. Welcome back. Frank Beckman Show, Monday morning. Chris Renwick in for Frank. We appreciate you listening. 800-859-0WJR, 800-859-0957 is the number for you to call or text. And again, we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can head on over to our Facebook or our channel on YouTube and watch us live there. And you can watch the show that way. And you can even interact with us and hear about the silly stuff we talk about during the break. So that's fun for you. Open lines in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I did want to mention this, though. We haven't really talked about it today much. And Mike, certainly we can get your thoughts on it as well. But of course, the governor's latest executive order, it's 147 now since coronavirus started here in Michigan. And she declared the state of emergency, which is still ongoing because she continues to call for that. But her most recent one is talking about masks and how they are now mandatory in indoors and in crowded places outdoors. And it's punishable by a $500 or a misdemeanor fine. I mean, these are the things that Super Recita kind of brought up, but it's like, I don't know how enforceable those things are necessarily.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's just a deterrent. I know that there have been some law enforcement officials out there who say that they wear a mask. They think people should wear a mask, but they're not going to use their precious time or resources to enforce it. And, if I were a law enforcement official, I would do the same thing. I would strongly endorse wearing masks, but with a lot of departments that are short on both resources and manpower, you just can't add another activity to police.
Well, and on that same breath, the Van Buren County Sheriff Daniel Abbott says, look, he's just not really going to enforce it. And he's not going to investigate those people who violate the executive order because he doesn't have the manpower. He doesn't have the ability to go to every business if somebody walks into a place without a mask and investigate and charge and all that stuff. It's almost impossible. And he's like, look, I can't do it. And he's like, I know this is going to be controversial. I know that this is, kind of bucking the trend in what the governor wants. And he's like, look, I wear a mask. I think that we should follow the CDC guidelines and we should wear a mask. And he does. But he's like, I don't think that they have manpower, which I found interesting because I would imagine that a lot of law enforcement across the state probably feel the same way. And even if you're a big box store, if you're Target, Walmart, Meijer or whatever, you could put somebody at the door, but I mean, are you going to turn somebody away? What is that kind of scene does that cause? Or I don't know. It just seems like a very tough thing to follow. If you're smaller, it's probably a little easier to handle. But if you're a big store, it's not very easy, I would imagine.
Well, and really, I mean, what's the MO on the masks? You don't wear a mask to protect yourself. You wear a mask to protect other people. So
correct.
If you're a store employee, if you're a police officer, and you have to be in close quarters with someone not wearing a mask, then that puts you at risk because I think you wearing a mask only cuts risk of transmission by like 30%, but if someone else wears a mask, it's razor thin. So you put these people in a situation to deal with someone who's probably agitated. They're not wearing a mask, and now you're putting yourself at risk of being infected.
Yeah, that's a good point. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. You can call or text that number. You can also watch the show live on Facebook and on YouTube. I want to get to the phones. Let's go to Christine in Owasso. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning, Chris. How are you today?
I'm terrific. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
You got it.
I'm listening to these people that talking about adding police and security to the store owners, or they want the store owners to add more security.
Mm-hmm.
Do they even realize that some of these store owners are having very difficult time financially, and they just want to add more regulations that would cost them more, would put them out of business? In addition, most of these people, when they call you and they talk about enforce these laws, and they want the police to do this and that and other, they are mostly the ones that want to defund the police. They don't want to support the police, but they want the service from the police. These people are unreasonable.
Well, it's an interesting thought. I hadn't quite made that connection, Christine, but it's an interesting thought. I just, in terms of these masks, though, I mean, yeah, you're right. A lot of these businesses have been hurt, and it's hard for them to regulate. Now, I would imagine if you're, like I mentioned, if you're a big box store, I would imagine it's, you still could hire somebody to sit out there and watch for people coming in and out with masks. But certainly the smaller stores, the smaller businesses are still hurt from that. And they're still hurting from the economic shutdown that they endured. And so, yeah, I think that's a valid point. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good point, Christine. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR to Northville and Vince. Good morning, Vince. And Vince. Vince,
We'll go to Robert from Roseville.
All right, how about Robert in Roseville? Good morning, Robert.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm on the green side of the grass, or the brown side of the grass. No, I it seems several months now, and Governor Whitlis still hasn't seemed to figure out that she should sit down with the legislature and come up with a plan. So she just remains a dictator. But what about the people like me who have already had the virus? I can't catch it. I can't give it to somebody else. Okay. Relax something on, at least on these, on those of us, it didn't hit me real hard, but boy, the recovery for me was actually took longer than the actual illness. But,
really,
I think that everybody who hasn't had it, who is in a population that it could turn bad, should already have hydrochloroquine in their hand, so that if they're found to have it, they can start taking it right away. Because now that we know that all of these doctors around the world were actually telling the truth, instead of trying to bash Trump, and killing people by saying, oh no, we can't take something that might help us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, look, I again, for me, we've got two laws on the books that essentially contradict each other in terms of a governor's ability to govern during an emergency. So, it apparently it's very hard to overturn when they're on the books, and it's hard to be able to legislate when the legislature really can't do anything. So yeah, it's a problem. It's not something that I'm comfortable with, that this has continued on this long. And at what point is it not an emergency here in Michigan? Because for a long time, for almost the whole month of June, we were well past the downslope. I mean, we were really towards the basin, and still that state of emergency kept being pushed and pushed back. So yeah, it's uncomfortable for me. I don't like that we can continue on that track, even though things were looking better, and now our cases are even starting to jump up even incrementally, and that edict continues from the governor's office. So I don't know. It's not comfortable for me either. I appreciate the call, Robert. Thank you. 800-859-0957 at 11:14. Check things out with Dana Clark on the roadways.
This report is sponsored by LifeLock. If you're only monitoring your credit to help protect your identity, you could miss certain threats, like your info for sale on the dark web. Good thing there's LifeLock Identity Theft Protection. Get LifeLock now and save more during their special summer sale. Go to LifeLock.com. Use promo code RISK. Sale ends July 20th.
Traffic First sponsored by Restore Wellness Center. Are you experiencing nagging body pain, tired of taking medication for relief, neck and back, arthritis, tendonitis, muscle soreness, and more? The Restore Wellness Center can help relieve or eliminate the pain completely and get you back to work. Reserve your appointment today. Call 800-935-5959 in Brighton, Shelby, and Bloomfield, or restorewellnesscenter.com. 94 westbound at Morass. Earlier accident is clear. Looking at lanes closed along 696 eastbound at Telegraph.
Chris.
Those right two lanes will be shut until 1.
Yeah.
We have a special guest here testing his stream.
What up?
Hi, Kevin.
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Your dog doesn't sound happy.
Yeah, no.
I scared her. I woke her up. Yeah, I did the first hour of my show on the telephone this morning for Paul W. While I drove down to the station.
What happened?
Our Wi-Fi went out somehow. I don't know if it was a storm or what. So I wanted to test see what kind of signal we're getting here.
Yeah, you look good.
Everything looks fine. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, I'm going to try to get from home tomorrow morning then.
Yeah. Just make sure the car's running.
That was nice job with the chief today. I did them in the last segment of the show. You did them in the first. It gave him more time to get into more stuff.
I know. I heard it was a great interview.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Crazy weekend, man.
Yeah, it's just a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing, I mean, like, I know you talked to him about it too a little bit, but it was, just that information that gets out there on social media that, this guy's just sitting there. I mean, that's a travesty.
He said actual reporters were reporting bad information. That's outrageous. I mean, that they wouldn't double confirm that on something so serious in this time. I didn't see who did that, but that's frightening. So
no, it's irresponsible.
It's crazy. It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So no. I hear you.
Everything else good, bro? I'm expecting big things from you tomorrow at 8:45 at the 8:45 hour.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, just tell us who your last guest is, Kevin. Will be our lead.
Yeah, we'll just do that all week.
And all right, well, thanks for being on the Paul W. Smith Show. Now, just stay put because Chris is going to bring you up here and talk to you in a minute.
Just don't move.
Right.
I like it. Hey, if you can fill one spot, any spot you can fill, it's great.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, well, thanks for letting me bomb your show.
You got it, Kev.
All right,
man. Good to talk to you.
Bye.
All right, there you go. Special guest appearance by Kevin Dees. I didn't even realize he had problems this morning. No.
Well, he called and he said, "Can I test it?" I'm like, "Well, we're in the middle of the show. Can we do it at another time?" And then eventually I said, "Okay, you can test, but if we're not on the air, or even if we are on the air, I'm going to pull you in."
Right. That's cool. So, it's good.
Let's see here. Yeah, so I think Vince from Northville dropped and I didn't tell you. So
that's all right. We were able to move on.
Let's see.
Andy in Waterford. I'll go to Andy next.
Okay. Andy. He dropped as well.
All right.
Dropped. Okay. Here we go. Go to anyone else. They're all still here, I think.
All right, we'll go to Terry next.
She's there. Oh, we're back.
The Frank Beckmann Show, News Talk 760 WJR. Now sit. Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957. 800-859-0WJR. That's the number for you to call or text. I want to get to a couple text messages here. Speaking of, John in Chesterfield says the governors say mask is 70% effective in stopping corona. Let the 30% breathe without a mask, John in Chesterfield. Never did we, the people, get put below I, the governor. Never is she above the Constitution, never. That's from an unnamed texter. We all know this won't end until November 4th. That is a scary notion that I obviously have thought about, but I've if this were to continue until November, that would be I mean, look, unless our cases started skyrocketing like they are in Florida or Texas or Arizona or whatever, that would be shocking. I mean, that would be absolutely stunning. I very much hope that wouldn't be the case. That would be quite telling, I guess you could say. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. By the way, as a reminder, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can go over and watch the show live there. But I want to head over to Bloomfield Hills and Terry. Good morning, Terry.
Hey, Chris. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have a couple comments. First of all, you are ever the optimist. I'm sorry, I'm a realist. And as far as sports happening, it's not going to happen.
Look, Terry, I'm kind of with you. I really am. I'm every day this goes on, I'm more with you.
It's sad that all the things we truly enjoy are not allowed, but things like rioting and protesting are allowed. But that's not my comment anyway.
Yeah.
My comment is about, one of the things is I'm very distraught that we are talking about bringing people up on charges of not wearing a mask when it's not a law. It isn't a law. How could we possibly carry on this conversation? The second thing is I work in the operating room, and people always want to say, well, you wear masks in the operating room. Why is that right? But it isn't right to stop viral spread. That's not why we wear them in the operating room. There's temperature differences, there's humidity differences, there's air pressure differences in there that allow us to wear them without the mask becoming moist and trapped with stuff to stop bacterial spread. That's to keep the doctors and the nurses from spitting, sweating, anything into a patient. That's what it's for. It's not viral spread. People need to understand that. There's plenty of studies out there that show that masks, and even OSHA shows that the only mask that will stop a particle of a virus from going through is an N95, but that's only to breathe it in. It's not to breathe it out. So people need to do some research and understand. And the last thing is, I hate that we keep talking about the numbers of positive tests. I saw an excellent piece where somebody had compiled all of the information that you can get if you go online for all of the local hospitals. And inpatient hospitals for COVID are almost nothing. The University of Michigan has 9 patients in a 900-bed hospital. Beaumont dropped from 1,100 patients back in April. They have like 113 patients total now. People need to stop the fear and educate themselves.
Well, Terry, and that's a great point, because it seems that, just as the trend we're seeing, if more testing is being done, we inevitably will find more positive tests, right? But if it's not necessarily the incline of positive tests, it's the decline of hospitalizations with COVID. That, to me, is the most important number, and I think you're right on the money there. Now, in terms of masks, I guess I'd like to get your thought on this. Is do you agree with the fact that masks, if 2 people are wearing masks, it's not necessarily you breathing it in, it's from stopping it from going out. So if you've got the virus, you wearing a mask, it allows you to not spread the virus. Is that something that you have seen or agree with?
Well, I would agree with that if people were actually wearing the mask as they are supposed to and treat them like we do in the hospital. Where
how many times do you see? Well, Terry, how many times you go out and you see people wearing the mask below their nose? So it really does nothing.
That's just right. That's kind of, well, if you're breathing out, you would have to be sneezing to be spreading anything. But the point is that people are taking the mask and leaving it in their car. It's sweaty. It's got stuff in it. They put it right back on.
Right.
Not stopping anything. When we're in the hospital and your mask gets moisture in it, you immediately take it off, throw it away, and get a new one.
Yeah.
Wash your hands in between. People are not doing this. This is what's so ridiculous about it. If you're doing it correctly, absolutely, I believe that 2 people wearing a mask could stop it.
Yeah.
95% of people are not wearing it correctly.
Right. Now, that's a good point. Terry, I appreciate the call. Thank you for the insight. Have a good day. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Let's go to Andy in Waterford. Good morning, Andy. Oh, Andy dropped. Let's go to Craig in Port Huron. My bad, guys. Let's go to Craig in Port Huron. Craig, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
I would like to comment. You see all these pictures of these young people over the 4th at Job Nooner and all over the country.
Yeah.
And in belly button to belly button is knee deep water partying. They're not going to take this seriously until someone close to them catches it and dies. At that point, they might wake up. That's my point.
Well, Craig, I mean, look, if you're young, if you're 25 or younger, and look, I mean, you were there too at one point. It's like at some point you thought you were just invisible or invincible, and you could just do whatever you wanted with no regard for your safety because you didn't think anything could happen to you. Well, now that we know that's not the case, I do still subscribe to the fact that that this is a free country. You should be able to go to Torch Lake and party on the sandbar, but this isn't necessarily quite normal times, and I think that should be taken into account too. So, in terms of adequate preparation and taking this thing seriously, no, not everybody does, and especially if you're younger. I mean, look, when I was younger, I didn't either. But that's just the norm. So yeah, to a certain extent, until it touches your life, until somebody has it. I mean, yeah, if you're not taking it seriously, then maybe if you're not taking it seriously now, maybe you would take it seriously then. It's a good point. Thank you, Craig. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR, number for you to call or text. I don't want to get into another call here because we're going to have to take a break in a moment. But I just wanted to mention again, lots of stuff for you to talk about. Obviously, the police shooting on Friday. Where do you stand on this football thing or sports in general? You think this is going to work out in the end? I'm just not sure. I know baseball's getting ready to start here in the next few days. Hockey's on its tail. Basketball, same thing. I'm just wondering how long that's going to last. I'm not sure that this is going to be something that we're going to see to the end of their seasons, quote unquote. But we'll take a look at it and keep an eye on it for you. And we'll talk about it. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Speaking of monitoring it and keeping an eye on it, Dana Clark doing just that on the roadways. Dana.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Looking for an easier way to find your next job? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Visit ExpressPros.com to find one of over 830 locations to help support your workforce needs.
Construction along 696 eastbound at Telegraph. 2 right lanes are closed until 1 p.m. this afternoon. Also seeing construction along US 23 northbound at 96. Maintenance crews causing delays from at least Lee Road. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Michael Perna and the Perna Team Realtors. Worried if this is the right time to sell your home? It's time to call Michael Perna. Michael Perna with Keller Williams Realty guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline that you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. Call Michael Perna, 844-737-6276, or visit thepernateam.com and start packing. Expecting it to be a nice, comfortable day today. A high of 81, some clouds, some sun. Tonight, clear skies, your low 62. Coolest day of the week today as we progress on into Tuesday, seeing a few afternoon clouds, mainly sun, a high of 85, and by Wednesday hitting 89, seeing some clouds, some sun, and a stray shower. Currently mostly cloudy, 75 degrees. I'm Dana Clark, WJR News with Dick Hafner in about 2 minutes.
Justin Ho for the Marketplace Minute. The economy is changing so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Michael, sorry about that. That was my fault.
Oh, that's okay. It's gonna
saw it right after I said it. I saw it.
Yeah. Well, a couple people have dropped and called back, so
yeah,
that's what's gonna happen when we're a little.
Well, it's seamless, and just so you guys know, obviously, me working from home and Mike at the station, we have to figure out a way for him to get the names and where people are calling from. So. He just got a little window there that allows us to, he just types in what their name is and where they're calling from. And then I'm able to see that. So that's where I'm getting the information from. So if somebody drops or they, hang up or call back or whatever, sometimes I don't see where he says, oh, so-and-so is no longer on the phone. So that's what that is. Just
right. So normally in normal times when everyone's here, I'm no cameraman, obviously, but
yeah, you are.
That's how we, in I have one of these screens here on my computer. Jason has one, and the host would have one in there. And yeah, like you said, Chris, we have to find ways to be creative. So, if someone drops on that screen, they go away. But here I have to. So,
right. Yep.
Survive and adapt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I've run out of coffee, which is sad.
I was gonna say I'm, doing these between the things. Like I'm pooped. I need to start doing some sit-ups or something. Get
right. Oh, funny.
Oh, let's see. Looks like we have some comments. Looks like we have some Facebook comments here. So let's go through these.
All right. Michael Dwyer says, how do employees in stores enforce no shirt, no shoes rules would a no mask rule be the same practice? It's interesting. Maybe again, though, like, I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I would assume yes, but
I mean, my guess
the no shirt, no shoes thing is pretty rare. I feel like
I was gonna say I feel like most people are in compliance with that. I would imagine that. I know me personally. I worked pizza jobs, for 7 years, and
sure,
never once did I have a shirtless or shoeless person come into the. So I don't know. I guess you would call the manager, but it probably doesn't happen that much that we don't really have a precedent for that.
Now, so like, for example, like if you're in a beach town, like every summer we go, now we're not going this year, obviously, but we usually go to the Jersey Shore because we've got family on the East Coast. And yes, the Situation, Ronnie, Snooki. Oh yeah, we party
all summer on in
yeah. So if you're in that town, I mean, it's a ocean beach town. So like, it's not crazy to see somebody walk in without a shirt on, to a bar or whatever. It's not that crazy. But if I'm in, Livonia, it'd probably be a little weirder.
Yeah.
Maria, I personally think people are more angry over the mask and may push any button they can to prove a point. Yeah, maybe like if you're totally anti-mask and it's crazy though. I will say this, Mike and everybody else, it's weird because like now when I see people without a mask, I'm like, why aren't you wearing a mask?
Right. Right. It's weird. It sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand people with medical conditions.
Sure. Absolutely.
But for the most part, it's not a big deal. I mean, here's the thing. In the beginning of this whole thing, I thought masks were stupid too, because I'm like, I'm young. I didn't know about the blood clots until today, but I said, if I get it, I'm going to be fine. And then they were like, well, okay, well, you could be a symptomless carrier and you could be spreading it to people, but if you wear a mask, you can cut down the likelihood. So, it's not a big deal. I mean, if you really have a problem where you can't wear it medically, that's fine. But other than that, I just don't know what the big deal is.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, we gotta, if you can wear them. I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Barb, when we stay in when it's cold in the winter, but also when it's hot in the summer, being cooped up, breathing on each other could be the problem with COVID-19 spread. Well, that's true. And it's, it's funny, Barb, that you bring that point up, because I was talking to somebody and it's like, look, in Michigan, especially, we are pretty much in all winter. I mean, unless you're doing winter activities and stuff, but most people they don't leave their house unless they have somewhere to go, because our winters are brutal here. And so it's like, that's the tough part of when this COVID thing came in, because it's coming in right as winter's kind of leaving, and we've already been in all winter, and now we were in, start of the spring, and it's brutal. It was brutal.
You said 1 minute, Jason? A minute and a half. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe if this thing hit in January, we would have had another 2.5, 3 months of us staying inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once everything started opening, we're like, I'm sick of being inside. I know me personally, I'm sick of being inside.
Yeah. And look, me personally, my like MO, I'm built for quarantine. I love it. It's fine for me.
Yeah.
That's not the case for everybody, but even me, I was like, all right, I got to go to a store or something. Got to do something.
Right. You're right. Even me, who I've been voluntarily quarantining my whole life, I'm like, okay, I gotta go for a drive or something.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear that.
And really, I mean, for a while there, it seemed like we had this thing under control here. And to me, my biggest challenge with myself is to not get too complacent because, for a while it was under under 200 new cases.
Yeah.
There was one day where it was 74, but kind of the new there's been kind of a new drum being beat that maybe we shouldn't look at new cases, we should look at hospitalizations, and that will give us kind of more of an accurate picture of how bad this thing is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Mark Gardner, will you be live all week? You're doing a great job. Yeah, that's nice, Mark. Thank you. Yes, we'll be live all week.
We're back live now, though. Here you go.
Frank Beckmann. Here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR, number for you to call or text. I do want to get right back to the phones. Let's go to Gail in Highland. Good morning, Gail.
Hi, good morning. I was hoping that at some point in time you could have a woman on your show by the name of Tammy Herrera Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And she is an expert in personal protection equipment. She teaches the teachers for the EPA. She's owns her own business.
Mm-hmm.
And she claims that face masks are doing absolutely no good, that the coronavirus is so tiny, it's getting through the mask, that no one is protected by wearing a face mask. However, by wearing a face mask, you are putting your health at risk in some cases. She says that they do testing on people that have to wear face masks all the time to see if they can tolerate them. They do tests to determine how much carbon dioxide is in the mask. She says she's seeing people faint from wearing masks. She says you can have a heart attack from wearing a mask, that they're downright dangerous, and that the government agencies that are in charge of personal protection equipment have been hijacked by our governor. They're just saluting and saying, yes, ma'am, and they're going along with all this, even though it is required by law that if you wear personal protection equipment for your job, you must get tested and fitted for the device.
That's interesting. I've obviously heard about that, but we'll look into Tammy and see what we can find out. Gail, I appreciate the recommendation. But yeah, I mean, look, it's people have their own thoughts on the mask thing and whether or not it's a good thing. I mean, obviously our leadership didn't think that masks were very important early on. They didn't think that they were very effective then. They came along and thought, well, maybe if everybody wears a mask, there won't be any way to spread it. You're really not spreading it. You're really not protecting yourself from getting it from the mask, but you're able to protect others if you have it. So that was a thought process, but yeah, we'll look into it. Gail, I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go to George in Detroit. George, good morning.
Morning, Chris. Good to see you taking Frank's place instead of one of the TDS Trump haters.
Well, everybody does a fine job. It's just happened to be my turn in rotation, George.
That's a matter of opinion, but anyways.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting a moniker like Super Recede. Maybe George the Great. I don't know. I'm toying with that. Maybe
all right.
Could be mine.
Let us know when you come to a conclusion.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to address this real quick after hearing it, being on hold. A party had 15 people or 14, whatever it was, that, caught coronavirus at the party. How do they know that? All right. Now, unless the party was testing people when they came in with some good tests, there's tests and then there's tests, and then they trace the people, they were all at the party. How do you know that some of those people didn't already have it when they came there? I don't think too many parties are tracing it. So this is just another, pile on thing to me. It's just, but the other thing that really triggered my call, I wasn't going to call today, was Adam Schiff, of all people, with no credibility, the guy that got on and made up a big lie under oath to kick off the fake impeachment hearing. And he's saying, yeah, Trump is, it's a shame. He's undermining Dr. Fauci, and the most credible. Are you kidding me? Fauci's the least credible person there. For one, he loved Hillary Clinton. They showed a letter online of how he wrote how much he loved her. That reduces his credibility. But from the beginning, he's been all over the map on this. He was the one. Trump gets blamed for a lot of what early on Fauci was saying. Oh, don't worry about it. Nothing here. It ain't going to come to our shores. If it does, it won't be a big thing. Worry more about the flu. Mask, well, not really. Not so much. They're not really necessary. Then even in March, he was saying, well, if you're healthy and you want to go on a cruise, go for it. I don't see you really adjusting your
George, and that to me is where I have the biggest problem with people in that bracket where they're the experts on the matter, and we still get conflicting information. The World Health Organization is another one where one day they'll come out and say, hey guys, good news, you can't get coronavirus from surfaces. And everyone's like, oh, that's great. I've been wiping my groceries down every time I go to the store. It takes me a whole other hour to put my chicken in the fridge because I got to wipe everything down. And they're like, great news. That's awesome. And then the World Health Organization comes back out 18 hours later and says, pump the brakes on that. We need to do more research. And it's like, well, hold on a second, because you could have just said that initially. Why did you even come out and tell us that we couldn't get it? Like, that's the problem. And Dr. Fauci has done it as well. And I'm not saying that he hasn't been right on things, but he's been maybe wrong on a few others. And so it does bring a question of what do they know? Does he have a handle on it? Is he giving out good information? So those are all questions I have. Georgia, I appreciate the call. But yes, that is an issue that I even continue to struggle with. And it's like, well, then look, we look to you guys to help us through this. We're looking to you guys to give us the information. And when nobody's given us, well, I guess you're giving us information, but it turns out to be you backpedal on it, you backtrack on this, and then you say, no, that is actually what it is. Hydroxychloroquine is not effective, but if you do take it, it may prevent it from happening. Like, these are the things that that's the part that's most frustrating about the whole COVID-19 thing. And I don't know how you get over it. I mean, I would hope our leaders in that matter would be able to use a little bit more patience in releasing that information. 800-859-0957. That's the number for you to call or text. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can go there and watch the show. And we also head on out to the roadways and check things out there with Dana Clark.
Just looking at midday construction along 696 eastbound at Telegraph. Your right two lanes are closed until 1 p.m. Also, construction work along Jefferson, both directions, northbound and southbound between Southwestland and Waterman Street. Crews will direct traffic in that area until 6 p.m. daily. Expect some on and off delays. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by Chris Furniture. This summer, enjoy spending time with your family around a new dining room set from Chris Furniture, U.S. made of solid wood, direct from the manufacturer. Chris Furniture in Livonia on the corner of Plymouth and Farmington Roads, or chrisfurniturinc.com.
Seasonable temperatures over the next few days. The ridge is going to build the heat to the south of us. A few clouds around this morning. Some clouds with sun this afternoon. High 81. Tonight will clear at 63. Actually pretty comfortable. Sunshine and a few clouds tomorrow with high of 84. Middle 80s and dry weather continuing on Wednesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ray Staging on News Talk 760 WJR.
The Kearns Brothers Roofing Showroom.
All right. Home stretch. Yep. I was about to say the same thing.
Wow. Well, thanks everybody who's watching. That's awesome.
I
We appreciate that. And yeah, we're in the home stretch. That's cool.
A lot of good interaction there on Facebook.
Yeah. That's awesome.
There's so many ways to get a hold of us. Pretty soon, we're just going to have people just like show up at your front door at 9:00 and just line up. Just
ring the doorbell. I'll open up and we'll talk.
Jake will be the bodyguard and make sure everyone has their masks on.
Yes. Yes.
We're so accessible. We'll even invite you out to dinner.
Jake will have his.
Come on over for a bonfire.
There's some Paw Patrol cake left over from Jake's birthday. Help yourself.
Here's the fire dog one.
Right, which breaking
He's the
news.
Dalmatian.
Yeah, hold on. I got to make a banner for this. Breaking news. Chris Renwick to do full show in Paw Patrol. This would be better if I could type mask. And
that's the mask I wear out.
And there it is. It's a banner, so you have to do it. That's all right. We'll send Hafner a cut for the news and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So how you feeling, Christy? It's 3 hours of nonstop talking. You don't get a break. Are you tired? Are you invigorated?
Oh, I feel great. I feel great. Ready to do another 3 more.
Yes.
I mean tomorrow, not today, of course.
Right. Yeah. I got 2 more with Guy later on. Let's see.
So are you guys using this too? This is cool.
I hope. Little constructive criticism from Tracy there. I like the scrolling thing because I can keep the same thing up, and I think it looks kind of naked without a scroll at the bottom.
Yeah, I do like the scroll. Can you make it like on that scroll bar? Can you just leave it?
I can't
in place.
I can't make it stop. All I can do is change it to. All I can do is change it to that.
Oh, okay.
But then I like
Tracy. What do you think? Is that a little better?
The only thing is I like to reserve this for putting who's on the phone.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, that's true.
So Tracy, I appreciate. I sound very corporate. I appreciate the feedback, and hopefully she can look past it. Oh, we're back.
Show News Talk 760 WJR. Now sitting in for Frank Beckmann, here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. I want to get to a couple texts from an unnamed texter. I'm in Florida. We have had a high number of cases of the virus. However, Michigan has had more deaths with less than half the population. At least our governor, DeSantis, hasn't sentenced people to death by sending them to extended care facilities. That's from Michael. The emergency orders must continue through November. Whitmer's plans for schools and mail-in voting. If emergency ends, so ends her emergency orders. The only that only exists during the declared emergency. That's from Tim in Westland. In my opinion, they only want us to wear masks so they can visually see that they are controlling us. Dan from Livonia. Getting tested and fitted is for respirators, not masks. Masks are not respirators. They are just dust blocking respirators. Or they are just for dust blocking. Respirators are different. Respirators, black chemicals, dust, all kinds of different things. And they are different. Yes, it is law if you have to wear a respirator. You must be tested, fitted for one, not a mask. Masks are different. Okay, thank you. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. I want to get back to the phones here. And let's go to, is Phil from Windsor still there? Let's go to Phil. Good morning, Phil.
Still here, Chris.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, listen, Chris, you've got some very intelligent people calling in today. And I've said it from the beginning, and I've learned my own facts from the beginning because I'm a free thinker. I don't follow the anybody else's thinking.
As you should be.
Most of the masks that people are using are useless. It's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence. The virus is so small that most of these masks, especially the homemade ones, do nothing. It's just a false security that they've given people. And Whitmer has no clue about what's behind the science of anything. She's just extending her rule of law and her emergency orders because it's all political. But I guarantee you one thing, they will say this in the future. When they look back on this, they'll say, how stupid were these people to think that these masks could stop a virus? That woman from the hospital, that nurse, she had it right. Those masks were designed to stop the bacteria when they're operating and stuff like that. They're not designed to stop a virus. And most of these people contaminate their own masks by touching them, putting them on their chin, putting them back over their face. And you're breathing in your own carbon dioxide, which isn't too healthy either. It's just more of a danger than a deterrent.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Phil. And look, you're not alone in thinking that. A lot of people believe that as well. I guess I'm interested in. I really, to me, it seems that again, getting the virus, wearing the mask doesn't prevent you from getting the virus. But if two people have the virus and both, or I'm sorry, if two people are wearing masks and one person has the virus, it seems like it's harder to get it. At least that's what they're telling us. So I don't know. To me, it's an and then going back to the governor's orders on, it's mandatory to wear these indoors and large gatherings outside. It seems really difficult to enforce that, both from a brick and mortar perspective and from a law enforcement perspective. Let's go to Sean in Northville. Good morning, Sean.
Hey, good morning, Chris. I was going to make a comment about masks, but the comment I really want to talk about is NBC and their doctor who faked having COVID.
Yeah.
Where's the outrage? Is NBC going to apologize? And now do we have to bring into question everything they tell us? I would say yes. I would say everything that you see on NBC, MSNBC, CNN, it's all lies.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with the story, Sean, I just want to update some folks. If you're not familiar with the story, the NBC medical expert, Dr. Joseph Fair, had been featuring him a number of times, documenting his battle with COVID. And he tweeted that he had tested negative for the antibodies, and the illness in the hospital in May remains an undiagnosed mystery. So they were peddling this as he had COVID and was recovering, and they were coming to you right from his hospital bed. But he basically said, I haven't been confirmed to have COVID.
Well, it's just a joke. It's all a lie. And once people wake up, I think the politicians are in trouble.
Well, that's an interesting point. And Sean, I appreciate the call. I think I don't have much to disagree with you. I mean, look, if this happens if these restrictions happen till November and then all of a sudden go away, it would be kind of stunning to experience that. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I have no reason to believe that, but I mean, the politicians could be put on notice. I agree. Let's go to August in White Lake. Good morning, August.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking my call. Great job as always.
Thank you.
Real quick, I just want to state and remind your audience a couple of quick things. There's still a lot of really good Michiganders and Americans out here. We're doing the best we can under unbelievable circumstances. If I had a movie script for what's going on and went to Hollywood, they would have said, "August, what are you doing? Close the door. Get out of here."
That's the truth.
Right. So in the interim, what I'm observing, because frankly, I'm out and about every day. I got to take care of some things, like most of us.
Mm-hmm.
So far, they haven't invaded our homes, at least I know. So just be light about the mask. It is what it is. Just do your best. Be smart about it. Wear them if you have to. Don't wear them if you don't. That kind of thing. Just be smart about it.
Are you wearing them, August?
I am wearing them when I go into public places, yes. And and most now are saying you got to wear them. So, but it's not that big a deal to me. As much.
No, and I agree with you, actually, because for me, I wear it. And again, I got a little guy at home. So for us, it's a little different. I understand not everybody has that circumstance. But yeah, we wear them. We wear them when we go into a store or whatever. And again, and I'm sure we're not unique, that some other people, we're still kind of laying low. So we go out when we need to, and that's about it. Otherwise, if we got to go out, we're wearing a mask.
Well, I think that's very smart. And I think personally with family and friends, there's nothing wrong with asking what's the protocol, because some people want to emphasize it more than others. And that's fine. And especially if there's other children, I totally agree with that. You got to be smart about it.
Yeah, and I think if you've got family members and we've kind of told our family, look, everybody's laying low. I mean, everybody continue to just go out if you need to. Otherwise, we're all going to be stuck at home because we all want to see each other. We all want to, we would all like to, have a barbecue or whatever. So for us, it's like, I feel more comfortable seeing somebody if I know that everybody's kind of, at least in my circle, following that same path and following that same script. And for us, it works. Maybe it doesn't work for you. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody. And that's fine. But I think being able to navigate this however you are, I think is perfectly acceptable.
And I totally agree. And I respect that. And it's not that hard to do. You can even say, just like we're talking, hey, here's what we're doing. This is what our household practice is. Perfect.
Yeah. No, I
respect that,
Yep, I agree with you, August. Hey, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Mike, where do you want to go here in the next minute or so? I want to try to get one more person in. I want to go where you want to go.
Chuck in Franklin.
All right, Chuck in Franklin it is. Good morning, Chuck.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
I'm glad that you're in the host chair today because I have a kind of a production guest booking suggestion for you.
Okay.
And that is book John James, our Republican senatorial candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Get him on the show and ask him the question that's now dividing the Republican conference in the Senate, which is, do you condemn or support the commutation of Roger Stone's sentence?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal to me because how he answers that will determine how I vote for Senate this year.
Well, what do you think about it, real quick?
Oh, if he doesn't condemn the commutation, I'm going to vote for Gary Peters for the first time after having voted for John James in 2018.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do our best to see if we can get John on or a statement or something, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we can. All right, Chuck? All right. Thank you, Chuck and Franklin. All right. Hey, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Time's run out. We'll be back again tomorrow for more of the Frank Beckmann Show. All right. Thank you. In the meantime, we'll check things out with Dana Clark on the roadway.
This report sponsored by LifeLock. If you're
all right, so I guess we're done. Thanks, everybody.
All right, just real quick, want to just acknowledge a couple people here.
Sure.
Amy LaValle, hi, Christopher, great job. Love listening and watching. I like when people call me Christopher. That's nice. Wrong. I had to be fitted for TB mass during my EMS career. Okay, that makes sense. Michael Dwyer is a former radio guy. I'm enjoying behind the scenes. Would love to see a photo of your host set up from home. Here it is.
Maybe he means your gear. Maybe that could be a behind the scenes.
Oh, my gear. Yeah. Well, here's the microphone. Hold it up a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I got a little box that plugs into my computer. So that's how I'm doing this. Brian, I sent you an interesting video through Facebook. I'll see if I can take a look. Barb, have law enforcement enforce mask laws is one more reason for people to dislike the police and not put the blame on the governor. Interesting. Appreciate the thought, Barb. Carolyn, great job, Chris. You guys are too nice. You guys are too nice in here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Michael, good job today.
Yeah, we'll do it again tomorrow.
We'll do it again tomorrow. Lots of stuff to talk about, obviously.
And stand by for news.
And stand by for news.
Currently 75 degrees. I'm Dana.